Excuse me. Well, I'm here. It's morning. I'm actually being able to get up and on early. Things are kind of funky, but they're working. We're here. It is what it is. So, alright. Let's pull it back up. Starting with the morning news. And I'm probably going to go out and have a cigarette as we get started with this.
This is one of the ways you stand up to fascism. You mock it, you call it out. People
Mm-hmm.
stand together and unite against it. That's in Washington, D.C. That is how Washington, D.C. residents are warning each other about ICE raids in their community or about National Guard raids in their community by playing Star Wars Imperial March. Speaking about
Yes.
Star Wars Imperial March, Donald Trump, just like Kim Jong Un, just like Putin or Stalin or you name the
Just do it, right?
dictator, he's putting his images on buildings all across Washington, D.C. If you drive through Washington, D.C. now, you'll see National Guard and military and Donald Trump's face on buildings. Just take a look at what Donald Trump looked like yesterday. I mean, he looks like an Oompa Loompa on steroids at this point, a bloated Oompa Loompa. Then you take a look at his hand. He's literally decomposing before our very eyes. Another shot of his hand right here. Release the damn health records, Donald. And from coast to coast, where MAGA Republicans are showing up to town halls, which I should note is very, very rare, only a few, we've seen them get booed mercilessly. For example, here's Missouri's 4th Congressional District Congressmember Mark Alford. Here's what his constituent had to say. Here, play this clip.
You're not helping me. Believe me, you're not helping me. You need to take your head out of Trump's ass and start doing your representation of us.
After this video, in about 90 minutes, I'm going to drop a full version of the town hall with Mark Alford in Missouri's 4th, a ruby red district. I want you to take a look at that in 90 minutes. I cover everything that went down at that town hall. This about sums up Donald Trump's view about our country and about the fact that he doesn't value our democracy one bit. Donald Trump was asked, so you say you're going to now change the name of the Department of Defense to the War Department. By the way, you advertised yourself as the peace president, which is obviously a lie, but the War Department, don't you need Congress to do that? To which Donald Trump responds, we're just going to do whatever we want to do. We don't need Congress for anything. Here, play this clip.
And on the Department of War, how do you plan to do that? It requires an act of Congress to rename the Defense Department to the Department of War.
We're just going to do it. I'm sure Congress will go along if we need that. I don't think we even need that, but if we need that, I'm sure Congress will go along. You know, that was the name when we won World War I, we won World War II, we won everything, and just to me seems like just a much more appropriate. The other is defense is too defensive. And we want to be defensive, but we want to be offensive too if we have to be. So it just sounded to me better, really like a better name. Yeah.
Now, yesterday during Donald Trump's bizarre press conference with the president of South Korea, where Donald Trump went on various rants about how he loves Kim Jong-un, and Donald Trump was talking about Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, like, I hate the range, Jack Smith. One of the things that Donald Trump announced was that his regime was going to let into the country immediately 600,000 Chinese students. So I just want to get this straight. You haven't even deported 200,000 migrants yet, but you're about to let in 600,000 students from China, when in China they've only allowed in 469 Americans. Isn't this exactly the opposite of what you said you were going to do? So now 600,000 China students get to take the positions of the American students at colleges. MAGA, you got to explain this to me, MAGA. Here, play this clip.
President Xi would like me to come to China. It's a very important relationship. As you know, we're taking a lot of money in from China because of the tariffs and different things. And it's a very important relationship. We're going to get along good with China. I hear so many stories about we're not going to allow their students, or we're going to allow their students to come in. We're going to allow, it's very important, 600,000 students. It's very important. But we're going to get along with China. But it's a different relationship that we have now with China. It's a much better relationship economically than it was before. With Biden, boy, what he allowed that, I mean, they just took him to the cleaners.
Even the far right-wing accounts like End Wokeness or Disclose TV are like, what the hell is this? What are you even doing right here? Laura Ingraham, Fox State regime propaganda, she was beside herself. She brings on Howard Lutnick, Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary. Lutnick, a total bootlicker. And Lutnick's asked by her, what are you doing here with these 600,000 Chinese students? That doesn't really make sense based on everything you've said. So you're allowing immigrants in if Xi Jinping tells you to do it? Like, explain this one to me. And Howard Lutnick's like, that's the genius of Donald Trump. That's why he's so smart. He takes a pragmatic perspective. We want the smartest people, they're from China. We don't want like stupid Americans in college. We want the smart people. They're from China. Here, play this clip.
Mr. Secretary, with all due respect, how is allowing 600,000 students from the communist country of China putting America first?
Well, the president's point of view is that what would happen if you didn't have those 600,000 students is that you'd empty them from the top. All the students would go up to better schools, and the bottom 15% of universities and colleges would go out of business in America. So his view is he's taking a rational economic view, which is classic Donald Trump, looking at higher education and saying,
but why are you
until
helping
we
Harvard?
Modify that.
That just
What's
helps
that?
Harvard and UCLA and UCal Berkeley and I mean y'all helping those schools. Why? They're like basically factories of anti-American propaganda. And now they're getting a big influx of cash because of the Chinese students. I know President Trump has always been very pro-Chinese student. I just don't understand it for the life of me. Those are 600,000 spots that American kids won't get.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm involved. I'm involved in changing the H-1B program, right? We're going to change that program because that's terrible, right? We're going to change the green card. You know, we give green cards. The average American makes $75,000 a year, and the average green card recipient, $66,000. So we're taking the bottom quartile. Like, why are we doing that? That's why Donald Trump is going to change it. That's the gold card that's coming. And that's we're going to start picking the best people to come into this country. It's time for that to change.
I think our American engineering students need to be given the first role at every job. And I think they're brilliant when given half a chance.
It's like the worst Howard Lutnick impression by me right there. But not as bad as this weirdo. Play this clip.
Body after body after body after body.
Yeah, I mean, again, total weirdo there. That's what he was doing last night, Stephen Miller. Dude, shut up. You know, one of the biggest failings of this nation is allowing these losers like Stephen Miller, these freaking weirdos who should not be anywhere, and dangerous people too, who should not be near any proximity of power. Just go back to, I won't even say, I was gonna say go back to your basements, basement dwelling people. But what the hell is wrong with these people? Here's Kristi Noem saying, "You've all been liberated. I've liberated you. You are free. DC is liberation. Here, play this clip.
And so the American people are feeling freedom again. I think they lived under the oppression of Democrat rule in so many of these cities. They forgot what it felt like to actually be free and to be safe. But now, for the last 11 days in DC, people are feeling different, and they recognize what America used to be, and they want it back permanently. So these Democrat governors, they need to wake up because the people in their communities and in their cities recognize how they've threatened their way of life, and they're not going to take it anymore.
Again, these are sociopaths. What in the world are you talking about? And then Stephen Miller goes on State Regime Media and says, everyone's free. You are living the best life now. Thanks to Donald J. Trump. Everybody, here, play this clip.
President Trump has literally set the people of Washington, D.C. free. They're so happy now that they can just go out and live their lives, go to their favorite restaurant, go to their favorite bar, go to their favorite pool hall, go to their favorite park. You see moms taking kids out to parks they haven't been to in years because they know the police are there. They know that President Trump is there with his law enforcement to protect them. It's a thing of beauty, Sean.
Again, what the hell is going on here? Okay, you sent the National Guard and you federalized the DC police. Many people are not even going to restaurants and sitting outside anymore. And you're out there saying that you've liberated America? I mean, these people are actually, like, I'm not being hyperbolic. You know, sometimes people are like, oh, Ben, I know your titles, you call them deranged, and I'm not sure they're deranged. They're deranged. These are the most deranged, vile human beings I can think about. You tell me, you put in the comments better language than deranged about these people. And it's such projection, too, that Trump's like, deranged Jack Smith. You mean like a career, smart, brilliant prosecutor, these people. And it's such projection, too, that Trump's like, deranged Jack Smith. You mean like a career, smart, brilliant prosecutor who prosecutes war criminals at The Hague, who was beloved at the Department of Justice before you destroyed it? Oh, he's deranged. Runs the Fair Housing Administration, and Fannie and Freddie Mac fire or say that she was engaged in administration, and Fannie and Freddie Mac fire or say that she was engaged in mortgage fraud, and then Donald Trump wants to get rid of her so he can control the Federal Reserve. She says, I ain't leaving. You can't fire me. What the hell are you even doing? So you have Trump administration warns schools that using essays, geography, or other unlawful proxies for race to promote diversity is illegal, reports the Wall Street Journal. Donald Trump says ABC, NBC News must immediately lose their broadcast license. Oh, and then Trump's approval rating falls to 41% in deep red Alaska. Meanwhile, the same way I started this video by showing mockery of the Trump regime, Gavin Newsom mocking Trump regime and MAGA losers, just like Ron DeSantis. Hannity and DeSantis were saying, come on, Gavin, let's debate Ron DeSantis again. We'll do another debate on Fox. To which Gavin Newsom just responds, ha, 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 ha. You have Donald Trump's White House senior advisor for trade and manufacturing posting selfie videos on his official account yesterday doing this.
I mean, I can't figure that out. That guy couldn't even bench press his weight, which was pathetic. And I'm twice his age. I don't know what this guy's going to be doing when he's my age.
Meanwhile, you have Donald Trump's National Economic Council head advisor, Kevin Hassett, saying that he thinks it's a great idea for the United States to be seizing the means of production of companies, seizing something, and that something you're seizing is the means of production. You seem like communists. You seem like communists. Here, play this clip.
Okay, so we should expect the U.S. government to be taking more equity stakes in businesses around the country. That is something that if you're a CEO this morning watching us, you should say, okay, the Sovereign Wealth Fund may be coming and trying to effectively buy in some kind of equity stake.
It's possible. Yeah, that's absolutely right. You know, that if the in the
Stream
past,
Element
the federal
says,
government has been
Old
giving
Mage
money
Guy
away
is now live.
lickety-split to
Streaming
companies,
politics. Morning
and
New
the
with
taxpayers
OMG.
have received nothing in return. And so now what's happening with the Intel deal is the CHIPS Act money is going out as planned, but instead of it just going out and disappearing into the ether, the U.S. taxpayers are getting a little bit of equity. I can really not see how anyone would think that's a bad thing.
Okay, and here's the video of communism in action. You have Howard Lutnick with the head of Intel as the United States seizes the production of Intel. Just think about what's happening. Trump unlawfully fires a Federal Reserve governor. Trump seizes a part of an American chip manufacturer company, and they make weird videos like this. Here, play this clip.
I'm sitting with Lip-Bu in my office, and at 3 o'clock, we're going to sign a document together in the Oval Office where the United States of America will own 9.9% of the great American technology company Intel.
All at the same time, Donald Trump now claims that he's getting $950 billion from Europe when he's getting donut hole, zero, no money. What are you talking about, crazy? This is what he said yesterday. Play this clip.
The biggest deal ever made is the one with the European nations, as you know. The Europe deal is the biggest deal ever made. I think it's the biggest deal ever made, period. And they pay us $950 billion coming into this country and lots of other things. They're going to buy $750 billion worth of our oil and gas and all of the other things. So it's amazing. Our country is doing so well. We're so strong now.
Governor Pritzker addresses Donald Trump, mocking Pritzker's weight, and says, I don't know, Donald, you seem like your body's falling apart. What are you going after me for? Here, play this clip.
From my perspective,
Restreambot says,
it takes one to know one on the weight
Salvo,
question.
hi, Justin.
And the president, of course, himself is not in good shape. So he ought to respond to that from me. I would say also that his personal attacks on me are just evidence of a guy who's still living in 5th grade.
Restreambot says, YouTube, Salvo, I just put one like you, friend.
And because he knows that what
Thank
he's
you,
saying
Salvo.
is actually
Sorry, I had to use the restroom.
And then, of course, Donald Trump says he'll figure out what happens with Russia and Ukraine in 2 weeks. Play the clip.
There has not been a war like this since the Second World War. This is the biggest thing that's happened in terms of warfare, wars. It's a whole new form of fighting. It's a drone fighting. It's a drone war. No, a drone war never existed before. And we're actually studying it from the standpoint of Pete Hegseth and everybody. We're studying it and studying it very carefully. This is a whole new form of war, but it's a violent war, and there has been nothing like this since the Second World War. So we'll see what happens over the next week or two, and at that point I'll step in very strongly, and if I have to be there, I'll be there. And we'll either have a deal or we won't.
There you have it, folks. Crazy stuff. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Dangerous.
Okay. So, maybe that wasn't Dublin. Maybe my computer is acting up. Let's check and see if they threw out another update. It's 8 o'clock. Double check. Okay, yeah. Yep, there it is. And today I have replaced myself, which means I can dab. I don't have Monster at the moment. If you want that, I'm going to go get it. But
Restreambot says, YouTube, Salvo, nice to see you, Justin.
And you as well, Salvo. I wish I could say circumstances here in America were better, but they're not. I've got my own fair share of stuff going on too. I'm hoping that today and tomorrow can go fairly smoothly. Part of the reason I haven't been on the last couple of days as much has been getting shit done. I had gotten my pay and doing what I needed to do to get by, including getting cat food, cat litter, new scratching pad for Dublin. Freaking. I have camera ordered, which should come in sometime today.
Restreambot says, YouTube, Salvo, how are you, friend?
I'm doing. I'm okay. I could be a lot worse off. That terror dream from the other day was pretty bad, but I was able to deal with it before the days it was out. How about you?
The question now
is pause. I'm tired more than anything. Pissed off a muscle the last few days as well. I've been working on getting it to chill out.
Restreambot says, YouTube, Salvo, much love for you, friend.
Thank you, Salvo.
Is which city is Donald Trump going to send his military to invade next? Is it going to be Chicago? Is it going to be Philadelphia, where just a year ago Donald Trump was getting booed while selling golden sneakers? Remember that? Here, play this clip.
Oh, a lot of emotion. There's a lot of emotion in this room. Thank you. Thank you. So the really nice thing is we have lines, and I want to thank Chase and I want to thank Alan. But we have
selling golden sneakers in Philadelphia a year ago and now threatening to send the military to invade Philadelphia. Earlier on Monday, Donald Trump was asked if he's planning on sending the military to invade cities without the approval of the governors of the states where those cities are. Here's what he said. Let's play it.
Prepared to order National Guard troops, though, into American cities if those governors don't request
YouTube, Salvo, forever friends, Justin.
Forever friends indeed, Salvo.
Chicago, everybody knows how bad it is. Everybody standing there knows. We know. You don't have to be doing any studies. They should be saying, please.
Please invade me. You should be saying that's how an abuser sounds right there. Then you have MAGA Republican Congress member James Comer, who's a wing of this authoritarian movement. And he said, yep, we're coming to Philly next. We're coming to New York City. We're coming to Chicago. How about the red states and the red cities, actually, where the violent crime is significantly higher? But do tell James Comer, play this clip.
We're going to support this. We're going to support doing this in other cities if it works out in Washington, D.C. And again, it's unfortunate, but we spend a lot on our military. Our military has been in many countries around the world for the past 2 decades, walking the streets, trying to reduce crime in other countries. We need to focus on the big cities in America now, and that's what the president's doing. That worked in Washington, D.C. Why don't
No. Okay. Never mind.
Restreambot says, YouTube, Salvo, I'm very proud of you, Justin.
Thank you, Salvo. Never mind the fact that Trump has literally pulled a Nazi move by having the government purchase shares in businesses. This is a major fucking red flag. But using our own military to act as law enforcement, if anyone is still fooled by Trump, you need a lot of help. this includes my 2 adopted parents. I can't be like that for everybody. There's a lot of shit going on, and it ain't small beans.
You vote to allow President Trump to come into Chicago or New York City or Philadelphia and try to combat the criminal activity in their cities. So I think that this is an experiment that's probably needed in a lot of the Democrat-run cities in America.
An experiment, just an experiment. It's called fascism, saying our military was sent to other countries like Fallujah. Well, we're like in Fallujah, now let's send them right here into the United States. Then Pete Hegseth spoke earlier today where Pete Hegseth said the morale of the troops is great. They love invading American cities. They just love it. Here's what Hegseth said. Here, play this clip.
Defending the nation's capital and ensuring it is safe and beautiful and working with law enforcement. And Mr. President, let me tell you, the morale of the troops, getting out there, talking to them, they love this mission. They're grateful to be doing it, whether they're D.C. National Guard or other state National Guards. And at your direction as well, sir, it's
lying
just
like a
common sense to make sure
motherfucker.
they're armed as well. And so they were rolling out ensuring they're armed, capable of defending themselves and others if need be, supporting law enforcement, and we're proud to be there, sir.
Well, look at the mission you just accomplished.
Look at the mission you've just accomplished. You've sent the troops into the American cities. And meanwhile, you take a look at a city like Philadelphia, you've got the Trump regime trying to take away as much money from the city as possible when the city's doing well, the city's thriving, the city's trying to build out parks and museums. And the Trump regime is like, nope, military, that's what we're going to do. ICE disappearing people. Here, play this clip as Congressmember Brandon Boyle is quoted here talking about what went down. Here, play this clip.
President Donald Trump has rescinded $150 million in construction funds for the Chinatown Stitch. Philadelphia's Office of Transportation and Infrastructure Systems acknowledging the loss of funds as they presented the plan for the first time at the city's Art Commission meeting this week.
Restreambot says,
it's definitely a setback
YouTube,
to the project,
Salvo,
but
good watch,
we want
my
to stay
friend.
positive.
Officials say even with the loss of federal funds, the Chinatown Stitch project is not dead. City officials presented an updated plan this week.
It's a beautiful park.
The goal now to find the funds.
We're trying to finalize the preliminary engineering, enter the final design phase of the project. We need to find about $12 million to complete that.
Democratic Congressman Brendan Boyle led the fight against the tax law that rescinded the funding. He tells Action News, quote, "I won't stop fighting to restore this funding for Philadelphia." Chen, who is executive director of the Philadelphia Chinatown Development Corporation, says the Chinatown Stitch will continue its already funded planning phase.
Let's bring in Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner. Larry, we're talking about why are we talking about this? We have to talk about it. Donald Trump invading cities. Philadelphia is top on that list with the United States military. Did you ever think as a district attorney, as a lawyer, you would be dealing with that, number one? And number two, what's your response to all of this?
Well, you know, my response is fascist will be fascist.
Says,
I mean,
YouTube,
let's talk about what's
Salvo,
actually going
many
on
hugs
here.
for you, my friend.
We have a guy convicted of 34 felonies who is claiming to be the voice of law enforcement.
Says,
Somebody help
YouTube,
me with that.
Salvo, always by your side,
who,
my friend.
you know, we all know was very close to Jeffrey Epstein, who ran a historically notorious pedophilic ring and doesn't want to release information about that. And he's here to make us safe. Really? Is that how that works? Did he make us safe when you had an effort to overthrow the government of the United States, apparently on his behalf, and he exonerated all those people? He pardoned all those people, some of whom were doing sentences of 20 years or more. You know, what do traitors get? And yet he let them all go. Let's put a little finer point on it. Here's the truth. The Republican states, meaning the ones that voted for the last Republican candidate for president in the last election cycle, have been more homicide prone for 25 years than the Democratic states. In fact, 24 out of those 25 years, you stood a better chance of getting killed in a Republican state than a Democratic state. 24 out of 25 of those years.
YouTube,
the difference has been
Salvo,
about 133%,
many congratulations for you, my friend.
meaning if 100 people get murdered in a Democratic state, there's 133 adjusted for population getting murdered in a Republican state. Republicans are terrible at public safety when they're not committing crimes themselves, which this president does all the time by all indications. When they're not doing that, They are endangering their people. And yet, for some silly reason, that is not a message that my Democratic Party has been able to get across. Well, here it is. We do not need an invasion led by an insurrectionist who is a 34-time convicted felon who's violating the Constitution. We do not need an invasion of a city, and Philadelphia is that city, that is enjoying a more than 50-year low in homicides, that had a record year last year and is doing better and better and better. And that is basically going on with all of these Democratic, largely majority minority cities that are led by mayors of color. That is what's going on with all of these cities. It is totally unacceptable, and I certainly will do everything in my power to tell them if they're going to F around, they're going to find out.
So tell us what the find out stage would look like. I mean, what you are able to share. Let's just say he targets Chicago next, which is what the plans seem to suggest, but then comes to Philadelphia after that, or who knows, maybe he comes to Philadelphia next, this time not selling golden sneakers for $499, but putting the military on the streets. What do you do about that? How do you fight that, both with legal authority, moral authority, and just the power of the people?
Well, thank you for raising moral authority, because we don't talk about it enough. We basically say, what can he get away with? That is how depraved our public discourse has become about the president of the United States. What can he get away with as he keeps moving the goal line when it comes to the Constitution, when it comes to the laws, with his hack Supreme Court? And yes, he has at least 4 hacks on that Supreme Court. We're hoping it isn't 5. So we do need to talk about morality and not just law, but it's very clear this is completely illegal. The president does have the ability to mess around more in D.C. than he does in the states. And that is because of the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which specifically says that he cannot commandeer local law enforcement to do whatever crazy thing he wants to do. He cannot force local law enforcement to go after immigrants, for example. That is work for a federal agency known as ICE. So we're going to go to the courts. We still have courts. Sorry, President Trump. And we are going to bring it to them the same way California has brought it to them, that this is an illegal invasion in many different ways, that it's completely unacceptable. But we have another very important tool, and I want the public to hear this, and I want them to understand that you are not alone. And that important tool is called state prosecution. The president of the United States has zero ability to pardon someone who is convicted in state court. This is why he has not pardoned himself for being convicted in state court of 34 felonies by my, I would say reform prosecutor colleague in Manhattan. This is why he hasn't done that. So if what you have is a group of ICE agents, or you even have the military coming into Philadelphia and they're committing crimes, they're committing assaults that are illegal, homicides that are illegal, they're kidnapping people, they're engaging in unlawful restraint, which is a crime in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, they're obstructing the administration of justice. If you have people coming in, military, ICE, whoever it is, acting beyond their legal authority, they can be prosecuted, assuming they commit crimes, in state court. And they cannot be pardoned by the president, which means they get to tell a Philadelphia jury exactly why it is that they thought they could invade this city, and they get to bear the consequences, whether they are handcuffs, a jury trial, or a jail sentence. That's what they get to bear. I ain't backing down. Frankly, I'm a little tired of some of my, elected Democratic colleagues for not standing up, but I really do want to commend those profiles in courage. We've seen Governor Pritzker organize a group of governors to resist this fascistic nonsense. We've seen the mayor of the city of Chicago, who has never flinched from standing up. We got Gavin Newsom in California standing up these days a bit. We need to applaud that. We need to stand up. We need to be on the right side of history. And if it means a short trip to jail, so be it. For me, I've been there before. I don't mind.
Talk to us about that as well, because for me, as a non-political person who stepped into this space, we've always been trying to call out Donald Trump as we saw him, which is fascist. We would say, hey, these quotes sound an awful lot like Nazi Germany, what he's saying. And then whether it was corporate news or politicians, they would say, whoa, 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 you can't go there. You can't say those things. Like you've never held back. We've seen so many in whether it was politicians or especially corporate news, just normalize this behavior, which wouldn't fly in any organization, nonprofit, big corporation, medium size, yet alone the presidency. I mean, just the way he behaves on a day-to-day basis, not to mention his criminal conviction, the civil judgments against him and all of that. But it does seem that there is right now in late August after the summer, a bit more of a drive by Democrats or just people to say enough and fight back. So that gives me hope. What do you make of this moment?
You know, what I make of the moment is that it is time for courage. And if your elected officials, Democrat or Republican, don't have it, then vote them out. We need to have Americans who are in elected office who stand up for America, who stand up for democracy. The phrase is, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Well, make no mistake, Donald Trump, just like Adolf Hitler, is at war with equality. The words coming out of his mouth, the endorsement by the Ku Klux Klan, the white supremacists that seem to be in every nook and cranny of wherever he goes. These people do not believe in equality. It is America's most fundamental principle. So whether you are a voter, whether you are someone outside of politics or you're an elected official, stand up. History is watching. We need to be on the right side of history here. Much of my viewpoint is formed by the fact that my dad volunteered and served in World War II and went to school on the GI Bill after that, the son of immigrants. I know what a Nazi is. And my father-in-law was a career military pilot who flew in 3 wars. He knew what a Nazi is. The people who have joined the military, kept their oath, care about this country, do not want to be invading cities, in violation of the Constitution, targeting and picking on cities that have a high proportion of minority populations, targeting a particular political party's cities. They don't want to be doing that. They shouldn't be put in that position. It's not right for them, and it's not right for this country.
I have never met any vet or anyone who has served with an honorable intent that wants to do that. Not one. Myself included. Because that goes against what we were trained for. That goes against what we were taught. That goes against our code of honor and ethics. So if you see those soldiers in your city and they're marching around proud, show us. Because that shouldn't be the case. No one I know, including myself, who's been in the position to have had anything to do with the military or armed services, should be okay with pulling what we have to do in a fucking city of our own. That's not what we're supposed to do. That is against our codes and regulations. That is against our honor and our integrity. We don't take that shit lightly.
In other words, stand up.
Larry, finally, I got to ask you about your take on the Trump cover-up of the Epstein files and your position as a district attorney. Your office prosecutes sex crime, sex trafficking. You know how files like this are handled, how redactions are handled, what the overall process is, how you work with victims versus the convicted sex traffickers, that whole relationship, the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell gets transferred from a maximum security facility, the convicted sex trafficker, to minimum security facility, and DOJ doesn't speak to the victims at all, and the victims are being re-traumatized. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice refusing to turn over those files. Just, I love your overall perspective on what's happening there, given your unique position.
Sure. Well, first of all, there's a shredder. And that shredder's probably worn out by now. Any Democrat who thinks that Donald Trump is holding documents that implicate him and that he hasn't destroyed them already if he has exclusive control over them is being naive. This is not a meeting of gentlemen. You are dealing with someone who called Epstein one of his best friends, and Epstein called him that as well. And we all know that there's a very strong possibility that his conduct was way, way, way over any moral line and possibly way over any legal line. So no, he is not going to turn over documents in his exclusive control that implicate him. We already know he's a fraudster. We already know that he's someone who does funny stuff with documents. Let's not kid ourselves. But I do think these issues are very closely related, meaning I think a lot of this talk about invading cities comes exactly at a time when there's about to be a press conference, I believe on September 3rd, that is bipartisan, demanding that this information come out. And it's important that whatever information is not already shredded come out, because at least it can be a clue as to what went on there. There is no prosecutor in the world who would ever tolerate what is going on with Ghislaine Maxwell unless it was someone trying to cover up crime. Okay, that's a cover-up. That's all that is, plain and simple. That is a cover-up. It's a whole bunch of snakes involved in that thing, and they're being snaky. So what we need to do is we need to keep our eyes on the prize, which is we cannot have a monarch. We cannot have an overthrow of the government of the United States. We also cannot be naive and imagine that Donald Trump is somehow going to turn over documents that implicate him that are in his exclusive control. They're not. We need to keep our eye on the ball as to what he is doing here, and we need to keep pushing for justice.
Larry Krasner, District Attorney of Philadelphia, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your time and wisdom with us all.
Thank you.
Everybody hits.
Yeah, I'm over here having a conversation with Grunk at the same time.
Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Let's just start where I think Michael Cohen would like I start every show. Okay, Michael Cohen was right. Remember when Michael Cohen told everybody one of the first things that Donald Trump is going to do is go after the oligarchs and the billionaires and take their companies? That's exactly what he's doing. And he will send a social media post attacking private company X. Then he will harm their stock price, make them show up at the White House or DC, speak to Howard Lutnick, then seize the methods of their production and their control and take it over. And now they're going to be rolling that out to private companies across the United States. You have that happening. At the same time, Donald Trump fired an independent governor from the Federal Reserve, Lisa Cook, which has never happened in the Federal Reserve's 100-plus year history, because Donald Trump wants to be personally in control of the interest rates, of monetary and fiscal policy, of central banking, which of course is horrifically dangerous.
Oh, shit.
Given Donald Trump's background of bankrupting most things that he touches. And there's a reason why the central bank is independent in functioning democracies, because where it's not, you see inflation surging. So America can become like Zimbabwe, Argentina, or Turkey. But let's just start where I said we would start. Michael Cohen, here is Howard Lutnick, Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary, from the cabinet meeting this morning, saying that capitalism is seizing the methods of production for private companies. Here, play this clip.
Right? The Biden administration had given $11 billion to Intel, given it to them. Done. Corporate just gift. And you turn that into really, it was like less than 5 minutes of conversation. And Intel agreed to give us 10% of their company, which of course was worth $11 billion. So it's not socialism. This is capitalism.
That's not capitalism.
Well, let me show you this other one. Lockheed Martin's next. Here, play this clip.
What about defense companies, though, Secretary? Why shouldn't the U.S. government say, you know what, we use Palantir services, we would like a piece of Palantir. We use Boeing services, we would like a piece of Boeing. There are a lot of businesses that do business with the U.S. government that benefit by doing business with the U.S. government. I guess the question is, where's the line?
Oh, there's a monstrous discussion about defense. I mean, Lockheed Martin makes 97% of their revenue from the U.S. government. They are basically an arm of the U.S. government. They make exquisite munitions. I mean, amazing things that can knock a missile out of the air when it's coming towards you. But what's the economics of that? I'm going to leave that to my Secretary of Defense and the Deputy Secretary of Defense. These guys are on it and they're thinking about it. But I tell you what, there's a lot of talking that needs to be had about how do we finance our munitions acquisitions. I think a lot of that is talking. And now you have the right people in the jobs and Donald Trump at the head thinking about what is the right way to do it. I tell you, the way it has been done has been a giveaway.
The hell? Time out. Time out. Secretary of Commerce? Seriously?
Yeah.
Lockheed Martin is a arm of the United States government because they are a contractor that provides things like aircrafts, as does Boeing, as does Kai, Korean Aerospace, that provides parts and stuff like that. What the hell is he talking about? Let me ask you a question. If they're going to start going after every single company that has any contract or any connection whatsoever to the United States government, what about Cantor Fitzgerald, his company that turns around there with their eSpeed that does bond swaps and so on? In fact, all of the bond swaps come off of United States bonds. So therefore, why not give up 10% of, I don't know, of eSpeed, of Cantor Fitzgerald? I mean, these idiots are so fast to blow smoke up Trump's ass when it comes to this. Could you imagine what he's saying? That this is capitalism? This isn't capitalism. This is following what Vladimir Putin did, but somewhat differently. You may remember going back into like the year 2000 when they had what's called privatization certificates, when Russia ended up privatizing all of the companies. Yes, those companies belonged initially to the Russian government. And when they sold them, they didn't take 25% or 10%. They kept 25% of the privatization certificates, which is different. I'm still trying to figure out, like with Intel, how did the company itself, a publicly traded company, rationalize to shareholders that are paying hundreds of dollars per share that they just gave away X number of shares to the United States government? I don't know how the board of trustees, the board of directors, how they rationalized it to their stockholders. I don't get it. I'm so confused.
Donald Trump sends a nasty post about Intel and the CEO. The CEO shows up, meets with Howard Lutnick, meets with, other Trump representatives. They cut this deal. To your point, what happens to shareholders? What happens to, this overall system? And it also, in terms of Intel, the utter capitulation, what precedent that sets when the United States government now says, oh, I like that. Now I'm going to go after this company, this company, this company, this company, this company. And Intel, with a proud history as an American company, now has in my view, a present and future of shame. And here's the thing too. This is why Trump wants to get rid of museums. Believe it or not, Cohen and Brigaders, museums don't predict the future. So museums are not forward-looking, unless it's a futuristic museum, but museums tell the story of the past. And we know that if we don't learn the lessons of history, history repeats itself. So it doesn't take a genius to know where this goes inevitably, because we've seen it before in countries. This leads to massive Great Depressions.
So let me ask you this, right? Let's just use instead Lockheed Martin. And as we all know, Lockheed Martin is a producer, for example, of the Raptor, the Raptor aircrafts and so on. Well, what if hypothetically the CEO, as he's sitting down with Nutlick, turns around and says, yeah, thank you for your offer, but why don't you go fuck yourself? That's what I would say if I was the CEO. No, seriously. Why don't you go into one of those little rooms over there, and why don't you go fuck yourself? I'm not giving you 1 cent. I'm not giving you 1%. I'm not giving you 10%. Oh, I have an idea. You want to cancel the fucking contracts? Sure. Now, why don't you let me know who's going to go build your fucking Raptors? Who's going to go build your aircraft? Seriously? At what point in time do you turn around? If I am the one that's doing it, you don't want to give us another contract? No problem. We'll just take our facility. We'll take our engineering. We'll take our property rights, our ownership, for example, in the design, and we'll move it off to China. We'll move it off to Canada. And you know what? We'll build our shit over there where I don't have to worry about you and your tariffs and your extortion. Why not just turn around and say that? The same thing with Intel. Who's going to now be able to duplicate what Intel uses, what Intel purchases, the government purchases from Intel? Who's going to go ahead and now what are they going to do? They're going to copy their proprietary, rights there. I don't understand why they capitulate. It makes no sense to me at all.
When it's also against their own, like, this isn't going to help them. This is against their interest. And the whole creep into fascism, Cohen, I've always been just wondering, and I feel like one of those like last survivors in a zombie movie as the zombies are going, like, I'm like, why are there all these other zombies? And like, whatever happened to being like a normal human being? Like, this CEO of Intel ostensibly, to get that position, went to great schools, rose up through the ranks, was in power struggles with people, knew how to exert influence. And so the fact that you can't just be like, no, we're not doing that. Go tell him to go F himself. Or, you know what, Donald, you want to be the president who kills Intel? I will go and do a press conference to our shareholders and say, we stand to you in this moment. And if they want to vote me out.
This is actually what I've been talking with Grunk about right now, is this Intel Trump bullshit. Because me being me, and having studied as much as I have on the human behavior, especially the psychology around narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder, I've already been sitting here making the connections and seeing, okay, this is not just fishy, this is part of that normalized sickness that is literally going around. The neurotypical mindset and psychology set that pushes this kind of behavior to the forefront and says it's good. But several parts of psychology that we have right say no, that's not good. But that is now normalized, not just in the business sector, but in politics as well. This is not okay. This is literally a mental health problem. And it's not a small one. I know why this has gone unchecked for so long. I figured that out during the first few days before the start of my affiliate anniversary. And since during the anniversary, I have done a stream on it. we've kind of got the whole what is the neurotypical versus the neurodivergent backwards. What we have currently set in psychology as supposed to be the normal way of thinking or neurotypical is actually traits of narcissism. Yeah, I've taken the time. I have spent more than 30 years studying this shit. I am a field researcher. Independent field researcher. And I'm always watching around me. I see how deep this runs. It's a problem. A lot of it comes back to what we call being neurotypical. And I actually have tons of proof to back up what I'm saying here. I could almost literally explain it to a 5-year-old. But psychology needs to get corrected. And we need to stop seeing the neurodivergent.
Stream Elements says, find me in other places: Discord, Twitter, YouTube, Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation. Old Mage Guy on TikTok as Mage.
That was kind of rude. We need to stop seeing neurodivergence or the autism spectrum people as, well, different neurally speaking, or think differently. There is proof to say that what is the neurotypical is actually a product of abuse. And the evidence is everywhere and insurmountable. For those of you who have been putting on a mask to make it through life and know that deep inside you're different, you actually do think differently, but have learned to hide it, that differently from the normal quote-unquote way of thinking, that difference from that mask is how you're supposed to be. That's why we have so many people who have to find themselves. And why we have people who've never figured out who they are. I don't know why there was a narcissistic bias put on psychology, but somehow there is. And it's got to be fixed. Because we're getting what we paid for with this. All the way up to fucking where douchebag in office is. How many ever years ago, when we figured out psychology was a thing, we let some narcissist motherfucker say what normal was. Probably because we didn't know what a narcissist was at the time. And really didn't know how deeply it could infect somebody. But, hey, what do I know? I've just been watching everybody for 30 years.
In this moment, as the CEO, to capitulate and give you a stake, let them do it. But I'm going public, and I'm going to be courageous, and I'm going to stand up and say, no, this is not the way it works, and the shareholders and the market can punish me for that or not, but I'm going to do it. There are so many people, companies, universities, law firms that let this guy roll over. You know, here's a data point, Cohen, that I'll do a video about for the morning. Prime Minister Modi of India. It's been widely reported he has not returned Donald Trump's phone calls 4 times. And Trump's trying to reach him again. And Modi is saying, F that guy. You know where I'm going? I'm going to meet with Xi Jinping before I take a Donald Trump phone call. So he goes out to China, the first time doing that meeting in 7 years, and Trump called 4 times. I want you to think about how, and this doesn't get reported in American media, how pathetic is it that you, as the president of the United States, can't get your phone call now picked up from the Prime Minister of India? That would be unheard of in any president in the past. And what the Prime Minister of India is doing is, frankly, what the Prime Minister of Canada should be doing, and what the President of Mexico should be doing, what the head of the European Union Commission should be doing, what Keir Starmer, I understand that America, because...
Come on, what is this nonsense? Guys, I need some help. I'm lagging like crazy. Are there any other better emulators? I don't want to get bullied again because of lag. Yeah, right. Lag. LOL.
Hey, maybe try the official PC version? Rise of Kingdoms PC version gives governors
not of Trump, but because of our past history, is the largest economy in the world. I understand that. I understand that Trump's threats could harm other economies. I understand that. I understand that America still has the biggest military in the world because of our history, not because Trump did anything magical, but because of United States leadership in the world. But it's enough of coddling this idiot. He honestly, I mean, he exhibits the signs of dementia, and I'm not a doctor, I can't diagnose it, but he exhibits these signs.
Capitalist.
He's physically decomposing before our eyes. He can't speak in sentences, and when he does, he talks about being a dictator and how he's made DC incredible and how the restaurants were closed and now they're open, which is not true. It's actually the opposite taking place. You have him talking about Gavin Newsom and saying Newsom's very handsome, but he does weird things with his hand. Like, why are you giving Trump's whole political career, just people, I think about the head of Teamsters. I think about Sean O'Brien, for example. You're the head of Teamsters.
Yeah,
Stop.
But Ben, before we get into Teamsters and all that, stay with me for a second. Put you back on the screen here. All right. People understand what Intel actually is. It is a technology company, meaning that they have certain trademark. They have certain proprietary trademark rights to CPU units, central processing units, that the United States government's computer systems run off of. Now, if in fact that the United States government can substitute it with something other than Intel, God bless. Then you bring them in and you can have a complete discussion over how much money the United States government pays to Intel for their service, for their CPU units, for their technology. But until such time, it brings me back to the point why the CEO of this company rolled over to get his belly rubbed by this administration. It makes no sense. The same thing holds true for Lockheed Martin and others. They have rights. They have patent rights on certain technology. They are the ones that are building our aircrafts, the ones that the United States, by the way, has an exclusive right to purchase, every single one. So if they buy, for example, from Lockheed Martin, if they buy, say, 150 aircrafts, that's not 150 aircrafts for the United States alone. Because of the value of the contracts, there is an agreement that only the United States can sell certain military equipment to any other country, and it has to, go through the United States government. Okay, that's the trade-off. That I understand and I can accept. But I cannot accept the United States turning around and saying to a company that produces CPU units and technology that if you don't give us 10% of the company, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're not going to buy our CPU units anymore? Go ahead. Fine. Fuck you and all your computers. All 100 million of them. Go now replace them with something else. And by the way, when those companies fail or that there's some sort of a hack into it, then you'll give us a call and we're going to be years behind. At which point in time, China will overtake you. I mean, I don't understand. I just don't get it. I don't understand what the CEO is doing.
I'm reading a book to my 10-month-old daughter these days, and it talks about the magical powers of saying no. That's basically the premise of the book. And it's important that little children know no, and to push back.
What about Patty Goes Potty?
We could teach all of it. But for having the ability to say no to people is like a grown-up thing. When Donald Trump says, I want to do this, that, and the other thing, and we know it violates laws and it's not constitutional, or it will harm, this is not a benefit to Intel. It will harm Intel. It will harm the economy. It will harm the universities. It will harm the law firms. We've read this in history before. You just have to say no. It's a deal with the devil that will harm you. And it's a fake deal because Trump will always change the terms. So say no. And Trump creates a magical make-believe dystopian world, and others just embrace it like this is the world that exists when it doesn't. And when it's viewed by media as just a legitimate side of a two-side debate, when it is.
Ben is going over the exact same thing right now that I have been going over with Brunk. This should have been just a no, period. And this isn't just a two-sided debate. This is something that's become normalized in so many places. In mental health speaking, it's not okay. It actually causes a lot of harm and a lot of damage.
Is a just complete farcical, bizarre, dementia-laden world, it becomes a problem. Like his cabinet meeting today, where he says that he sees all of these black women, he says, an army of black women wearing their red hats, professing their love for Trump. And these black women say, please, please, Donald, come into my city. That's what all the black women are saying to Donald, apparently. Here, play this clip.
You have a force of black women. They're like only Trump. They want Trump to come in. And you see them. They're all over the place in Chicago.
That's it, a force.
Can you please tell me who he was talking to that says that they saw them? And I would like to see who these people are. I really would. You know what he's talking about? He's talking about two women, one who unfortunately passed away, Diamond and Silk, that wore the MAGA hat. You have a couple of individuals from the black evangelical.
The same woman who shows up at the Chick-fil-A. She goes to all the events.
Yes. She's
These
figured out a way how to
gals are
monetize
nuts.
it. And so she's willing to wear that MAGA hat in exchange for filling her pocket up with cash.
Or what? I mean, I don't know what she does or doesn't do. It certainly has become a lifestyle in a world. I don't know what she does. I haven't looked into her background, so I don't know one way or another. But she seems to go to all of the various events.
I was talking about Diamond and Silk.
Oh, Diamond and Silk. Diamond and Silk made that. Certainly, the podcast was built on it. And then what? Was it which was it Diamond or Silk who died of what, COVID?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, okay. So then you have Donald Trump saying the following about, I'll show you these two clips about Gavin Newsom. First, he calls Gavin Newsom, he says Gavin Newsom has something wrong with his hands.
Newsom.
Here, play it.
Can't handle it. You have an incompetent governor there. You have an incompetent governor in California, Gavin. I know him very well. He's incompetent. He's a nice guy, looks good. Hi, everybody. How you doing? He's got some strange hand action going. I don't know what the hell his problem is. It's a little weird, to be honest. There's a little something shaky going on there. But, you know.
So here's Trump's
projection.
hand.
Is it not projection?
So here's Trump's hand, though, as well. Let me show you. Just pull up the photo, Jeremy, of Trump's hand. I mean, literally, his hands are rotting right now, and Trump does the weird hand stuff, but clearly Gavin Newsom's looks bother Donald Trump. And then Trump said that this is one of the most absurd lies that he says, where he personally released hundreds of millions of gallons of water to stop the fires. This is what in Southern California in January. Here's what Trump says about that. Let's play it.
But I think that's actually just an excuse. I actually think these people are sick. There's something wrong. So we send hundreds of millions of gallons of water a day into the Pacific Ocean. They turn a valve, and the valve heads out, and we turn the valve back. I actually had to do it using force. We turned the valve back, and now they have water, but not as much as they should have, because they should. And I'm telling Gavin Newsom by this conversation right now, turn the rest of the water on.
Thinking about playing D&D online? Here are 3 things you need to know. 1. No setup needed. Just open your browser and start playing D&D, Pathfinder, and more. And you can create unlimited free characters. 2. Everything is automated. Dice rolls, stat tracking, and even lighting effects. Design and play the campaigns you want on our virtual tabletop. And 3. Find your perfect party instantly. Whether you're a beginner or a pro, Roll20 connects you to thousands of players. Ready to roll? Click below and start playing right now for free.
Turn it on.
And here's one of those
Can
things.
I ask you this question?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? To our brigaders, we all have sinks, right? And you could turn it on with a slow drip, or you could turn it all the way to the left and open up the valve completely. Is that what he's talking about? Does he think that there's some sort of a spigot that sits under Gavin Newsom's desk, or maybe in his bathroom with a bunch of documents or something like that, that you can decide whether you're going to open it? There you go. That's what I was looking for. My only question, Ben, is how the hell did they get there to turn that thing on? That's, that seems like a little dangerous to me. They should. I mean, I wasn't aware that the spigot was that big. But Gavin, just turn the spigot on, please. This is the dumbest argument that I think I have heard yet. And there's quite a few really ridiculous arguments, to the point that they are releasing water back into the Pacific Ocean. Who's feeding him this inaccurate information? Who is the one in that group? Because I would actually call the president and say, this person's got to go. I mean, you're making statements that are so illogical, that are so inaccurate, that it makes you look ridiculous. It makes you look like uneducated.
It goes back to what we were saying at the beginning also, though, is that where I feel sometimes like I'm trapped in that zombie movie, whether it's the Brad Pitt one or the Will Smith one, or whatever they are, and I'm looking around and I'm saying, this is very not normal, right? And I'm looking for anybody else saying like this is crazy, because this is 25th Amendment stuff. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. You know, Donald Trump's fascist stuff is impeachment stuff. This cognitive stuff is 25th Amendment. I mean, again, what are you talking about with a valve? What Donald Trump did, and again, just think about it. This stuff like this happens every day. He said after the fires in January in Southern California were 100% contained, 100% contained, didn't pose a threat anymore. Donald Trump sends the Army Corps of Engineers to central Northern California, where there are reservoirs which hold water for dry summers, and they're full. They're not, California is a big state, right? California can fit multiple states inside California because it's huge. So central to Northern California is nowhere near Southern California. It would be like the difference from, say, New York to Washington, D.C., or New York to Maryland, okay, is just an example. So after the fires are fully contained, Trump has the Army Corps of Engineers release 2 billion gallons of water from the reservoirs onto the farmland areas in January, February time period that was needed for the summer, harming the farmers there, so he can say that he turned on an imaginary valve. I just want you to think about that's what he did. And that's what he keeps on talking about. And you stole the water. And by the way, Central California is the only kind of Trumpy area in California as well. So you took that water. Okay, let me show you this next clip here, Cohen. Donald Trump then says, being called a dictator is actually a good thing, he says, because if it stops crime, maybe he is a dictator. This is what he's saying it out loud. Here, let's play it.
Terms, and will be the big subject of the next election. Think of it. They are, instead of saying Trump's right about crime, it's really bad in Chicago. You have a guy in Illinois, the governor of Illinois, saying that crime has been much better in Chicago recently, and Trump is a dictator. And most people say, if you call him a dictator, if he stops crime, he can be whatever he wants. I'm not a dictator, by the way, but he can be whatever he wants.
People aren't saying that he can be whatever he wants, but here he says, I have the right to do anything I want to do. As the president, I have the right to do whatever. Here, let's play it. If we've got it. If not, we could play the clip about Zelensky. It's the next in order, Jeremy, as well. So if you've got that one, if you've got the Zelensky one.
So I would have much more respect for Pritzker if he'd call me up and say, I have a problem. Can you help me fix it? I would be so happy to do it. I don't love, not that I don't have the right to do anything I want to do. I'm the president of the United States. If I think our country's in danger, and it is in danger in these cities, I can do it. No problem going in and solving, his difficulties. But it would be nice if they'd call and they'd say, would you do it?
And I just want to touch on something that you brought up, which is he allowed to do it? I hate to say it because of the Supreme Court of the United States, because of that decision. What he's saying is not inaccurate. In fact, here's what he does, and he does so well, despite the fact that the information that he's putting out there is wrong. I actually wrote about it, Ben, in my Substack. What do you call it? I called it Action Resonates While Statistics Alienate. And I write in, I want you to hear what I'm saying, Brigaders. Politics is not a contest of facts. It's a contest of feelings. And right now, President Trump is winning because he understands something that, for whatever reason, we Democrats refuse to accept, that people don't want statistics. They want safety. They don't want a lecture about percentages. They want to know that their kids can walk to school without fear. And while Democrats are obsessing over charts and crime data, Trump is painting, while inaccurate, he's painting a visceral picture of danger and promising that he and he alone can fix it. And you know, the brutal truth is, it works. And that's what he's taking advantage of. He's taking advantage of the fact that he's painting a picture. Don't tell me that Chicago doesn't have crime, that New York doesn't have crime, that DC doesn't have crime, or Palm Beach, or any of these ruby red states. They all do. But what he's doing is he's over-exaggerating it. Now, mind you, in just the last 2 months, while I'm at the pharmacy picking up my medication, no bullshit, 3 times I watched different people come in there and start stealing shit from it. So now what does Trump do? He blows it out of proportion. Now, we've all seen it. We've all seen videos of smash and grabs. We all know, and we've all seen or read where you have these kids on scooters that are, grabbing women's pocketbooks or people's watches. So Trump is now turning around and over-exaggerating it and saying that this is a massive, massive issue that needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. Now, there's not one of us that will turn around and disagree that this crime is no good. Shoplifting or smash and grabs or what have you. None of us will say that it's not good, but he is feeding fear. He's feeding terror that doesn't exist. And instead, what does he say? Well, right now, we've had 2 weeks where there's no crime. By the way, we don't know that there's no murders taking place in DC. First and foremost, we don't know that to be true. We don't know that to be true because he's controlling all the narrative and all of the information. But he's going to go one step even further. Anybody that is convicted right now of committing a murder in the District of Columbia will be executed. You think he's taking it a little bit too far? There's no due process. There's no issue about whether or not the District of Columbia even has a death penalty. He is going to impose one with what? A Sharpie and an executive order. And this is where the danger comes in. And this is why, as Ben and I say all the time, help Midas Touch Network, help Michael Cohen, help Ben Meiselas and Brett Meiselas and Jordy Meiselas, help us to grow this community. If 2026, and mark my words on, I've been right way too many times for you to ignore this. If 2026 doesn't go the way that we want, if we don't take back either the House, the Senate, or both, the democracy that you woke up to yesterday is going to look very different than the democracy you're going to wake up to tomorrow. And that's the danger. And what are we doing here? We're trying to develop the community to ensure that our tripartite system of government does not dissipate to these cowards like this Missouri representative who got booed off the stage that was sitting there and had an elder gentleman, a farmer, turn around and say to him, "Take your head out of Trump's ass." That's what they have to do. If you are going to just simply roll over to get your belly rubbed by the president, we don't want you. And they should be voting him out, which would basically nullify this entire Texas gerrymandering nonsense.
Yeah.
People would open up their eyes. We wouldn't have to worry about it at all.
Well, and that's why we need leadership that is fearless, that is strong, that is speaking to the people every damn day. Yeah. That's what is needed right now. And we need leaders to lead. The example I was giving about the union leader of the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, what bothers me about him, a lot of aspects, but the fact that Donald Trump hates unions. Every one of Donald Trump's policy is anti-worker. Trump wants to destroy unions. And here you have a union leader who can't say that. He'll say instead, well, I think a lot of the union members may be Trump supporters. That may or may not be the case. But if you are a leader, what you need to do, the same way if you're the head of Intel, if you're a governor, whatever, as a leader, you need to Trump is leading as a dictator with falsehoods every day. and he is spreading them every day, a deluge of them. So if you are a leader and you want to protect others other than yourself, you have to say, hey, you may like this guy, but he's going to destroy your life. And then they may go, oh, well, we don't like you. We're going to vote you out. So be it. Then lose your position. Then don't be the governor. Then don't be the union leader. Then don't be the CEO. Yes, it's a tough position, but there's so many people who care so much about their comfort.
This is your ship, once a beacon of hope, now a wreck buried in alien soil, shot down in
over the other people's lives, and even they have such a short-term view of their own comfort that it's coming for you.
What about the comfort of your children? What about the comfort of your grandchildren or future generations? What about your neighbors, your friends' children's, and so on? You're willing to walk away from that for $1? Seriously?
Yeah, so you can go back to the country club for an extra, for an extra year or two, so you can go golfing. What are you really doing here? One point to mention as well. So DC just had a murder take place in the past 24 hours. So again, being fact-based, I think this was a 9 to 11 day streak of no murders. The longest streak thus far this year was before the National Guard, about 16 days or so. There have been numerous weeks, about 4 to 5 times this year, where you had full weeks of no murders, not because of National Guard. Crime is at a 30-year low there. But to your point, Cohen, is crime a problem in DC? Yes. Crime is a problem in cities. It exists.
By the way, crime is a problem in rural areas too.
Absolutely. So the question is, what do we do as a society? Does the National Guard now patrol the entire country? How does that work? Do you not become a free society? One of the things that the Trump regime is doing right now is they are defunding all of these grants that were given to cities to help develop parks and green spaces and all of these things, education. And when you do that, you create conditions for crime to fester as well. So there's a reason why during Trump's first term, you actually had homicides hitting record highs. Republican states, because of their policies, actually cause more crime than in blue states. We'll talk more when we come back from our first break, because you and I still haven't talked about that meeting, Cohen, or that Oval Office presser that Trump had on Friday, where he held up that photo of himself and Putin and said how much excited he is that Putin may visit the U.S. for the World Cup. And
how good he looked in the picture.
The whole thing was,
listen,
again, as I said,
you got to talk about the important things, Ben. How good he actually looked good in the picture. All right.
Let's take our first and only break of the show. A reminder, subscribe to the Mea Culpa audio podcast. Cohen's had some great guests on. Check it out. Subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel, The Michael Cohen Show. Check that out. And subscribe to this YouTube channel. Subscribe to Cohen's Substack. And subscribe to the Midas Touch Substack. One quick break, 2-finger salute, home stretch. Welcome back to Political Beatdown. Ben Meiselas, Michael Cohen here. Cohen, let me just show you this photo right here. And again, like this to me, when Donald Trump talks about, they went after me for Russia, and I found burn bags, and they set me up, and how dare they say that I have this relationship with Putin and that I was colluding with Putin, like Obama, Hillary Clinton, whoever. I mean, pull up this photo, Jeremy, from the Oval Office on Friday. Okay, now, I just think there are so many things happening before us in plain view, Michael Cohen, that because it happens like this, like if you told me that, Ben, what's Russia? And I said this. I said, here's what we know about Russia, okay? Donald Trump is taking secret photos with Vladimir Putin. And then he's in his Oval Office with his staff. And he's showing them photos that Putin sent him of them together. And Trump's saying, and we've got it, it's all secret. And Trump's saying, look how great Vlad looks. Look how great I look. we're going to do great trade together. And, Zelensky's not really innocent. And I think that we can make great deals with Russia. And I can't wait till he comes here for the FIFA World Cup. And it's just going to be really, really, really incredible. We talked all about it. You would say to me, wait, Donald Trump speaking with a genocidal dictator who put bounties on the heads of Americans, and he's doing that? Oh my God, what a scandal. I mean, that's impeachable. Come on, that couldn't have happened. He did it in public. So use that as an example. Cohen, if I told you that...
Let me respawn in Rome, please. Yes.
Our city currently has a population of 9. A farmer? I definitely need you. Aha! We have 21 now. Next, I gotta build houses for them.
Buried in the Epstein files, Donald Trump had a plan. And if you look in the Epstein files, buried in page 100,033, there's a footnote in an email that references Donald Trump's plan. And he goes, I'm going to give Ghislaine immunity. I'm going to help her out no matter what happens. I may dangle a pardon in front of her, and I'm going to have her meet with my criminal defense attorney. I'm going to have her say super nice things about me and say Epstein did nothing wrong and that she saw nothing wrong. And then we're going to do that. Then I'm going to move her to a minimum security facility where sex traffickers are not allowed to be at. And then I'm going to kick out the people in the minimum security facility who actually belong there, who criticize Ghislaine. And I'm going to ignore the victims. I'm going to call all the victims of Epstein Democratic operatives, and I'm going to smear them. And I'm not going to allow my DOJ to speak to them. That's my plan. So if you told me that's in the files, you would say, oh my God, home run, grand slam, what a sicko. But see, Cohen, these things are happening in plain view. Now, what if I told you also, I found an email that Donald Trump was saying that he may appoint to lead the children's youth athletics initiative that he wants to launch, to supervise health and fitness for young girls, that Trump wants to appoint somebody who was found liable of sexually assaulting a 16-year-old child. He wants to make this person the head of it. What do that's pretty, no way he's going to, no, Trump appointed Lawrence Taylor, who was convicted of sexually assaulting a 16-year-old.
He probably then should have just turned around and appointed as his assistant coach, for Jim Jordan. I mean, under those circumstances. I mean,
and then Jim Jordan says, this is literally, Jim Jordan goes, Ghislaine Maxwell has exonerated Trump. I played clips on other shows about that.
I saw that.
Ghislaine's exonerated Donald Trump. Well, based on that logic, Ghislaine said that she never observed anything with Epstein. She said that the thing with Epstein was that he hung around, this is what she knew. He hung around young women because he liked to listen to the music that the kids were listening to. That was her direct language right there. So if she's saying that she didn't see Epstein, and she says that she did nothing wrong in this interview when she was convicted in a trial of child sex trafficking, explain to me the logic of MAGA saying then she exonerates Donald Trump.
Because all they're doing is parroting what they're hearing and expected to continue to do it. That's part of the brilliance, all right, of this MAGA movement. What they do is they spread a lie, and like Stalin used to do, the more you repeat the lie, the more the lie becomes the truth. Now, let me be very clear to those of you that are with us and those of you that will be watching this down the road. There is only one way for us to know the truth. You can all have your theories, whether they're conspiracy theories or you think they're predicated on facts. Nobody knows. But you know where the information is? It's inside those files. So if they put out those files unredacted so that we can actually read them, so that we can actually know the truth instead of the innuendo and the hypothetical. Yeah, I know there were certain things that took place. Yeah, Donald Trump's name is on the flight register. So what? So what? Did the flights go to his island or did they go to Palm Beach? You don't know that. I don't know that. And I don't want to guess anymore. I just want the facts out there. I want the whole frickin' file released so that Congress gets it, which they're entitled to. The American people get it. MAGA gets it. The first time I really want MAGA to get something that they want, I want them to get the file unredacted except for the names of the victims. So we could put an end to all of the speculation, all of the conversation, all of the lies. Because these victims deserve to be heard. They deserve to see accountability. And the victimizers deserve to be held accountable. Plain and simple.
Well, the undisputed fact right now, undisputed though, that Donald Trump is in the files. We know that's a fact, right? Fact. He's in the files, right? Yes.
In what capacity is the part that you don't know.
Well, but let's do this in the legal way, right? Is he in the files, right? Yes.
Yes.
If that proved that he was innocent and that he looked great in the files.
EVE Online is a vast.
Would you think that he would want to release them? If it made him look good?
What you're saying makes perfect sense, except if releasing part of that file maybe harms somebody that is important or close to him. Again, this is pure speculation. It's pure hypothetical. I don't know. And that's why, Ben, as much as I love playing this game and as much as people enjoy creating these conspiracy theories or these theories of what's in that file, I hate it. I want the file. And by the way, you know
Stream
me well
Elements
enough
says,
to know
find
that
me in
file
other
came
places:
out
Discord,
and it's
Twitter,
1,000 pages
YouTube,
long.
Steam,
I'm staying up
Xbox,
all night
and
long
PlayStation
I'm
Old
reading.
Mage Guy on
And I'm
TikTok
going
as
to print
Mage.
it out and I'm going to take a highlighter to the important parts so that you and me, Ben, can speak to our brigaders and give you the facts that are relevant to the information that we all want to know. That's what I want.
Well, it's hundreds of thousands of pages. We know that. We know Trump's name is all over them. I feel very strongly that if it made Donald Trump look good or it exonerated him personally, he would find a way to release those portions. And then I also know that based on what's been released already, what we know is out there. When undisputed fact, Donald Trump says Epstein is a great guy who likes beautiful women on the younger side. Undisputed fact, Donald Trump said that he would go backstage at his beauty pageants and inspect the people naked. Now, he doesn't say the age of those people, but we know his beauty pageants had people as young as 14, as old as 28. But he said that he would inspect them naked because when you're the head, you get to do it. Undisputed fact. Undisputed fact, Donald Trump and Epstein would throw events together at Mar-a-Lago where they would bring girls, we're not sure what the ages are, from the beauty pageants, saying that there would be VIP model scouts there, but it would just be Trump and Epstein. Now, they can argue that they were playing hopscotch together, or maybe they were playing music together, or they were having swimming competitions with the 30-plus girls of undisclosed ages there when it was just Trump and Epstein during the years Epstein sex trafficked. But I tend to believe strongly that I'm not so naive to believe that's what was happening. And I think we know if reasonable minds can believe what was happening there. We know, undisputed fact, that Mar-a-Lago was the grounds, if you listen to what Trump says, girls being stolen, where Virginia Giuffre, an underage girl, was working at the spa, to which Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein found her there working at the spa and then put her into a sex trafficking ring. She was hired at Mar-a-Lago. We know that there's a 14-year-old girl, Jane Doe. This is from Ghislaine's trial. This was a witness at Ghislaine's trial who shows up at Mar-a-Lago with Epstein and Ghislaine, and the testimony was they brought us to Mar-a-Lago. Epstein showed me off to Donald Trump and said, words to the effect of, what do you think about this one? Or do you like this one? Or what do you think about her? Or words to that effect. And that was it. There's nothing further to suggest more, but I'm just that the testimony was basically along those lines. We know that Epstein's girlfriend had testified that Epstein brought her to see Donald Trump in an apartment, and Donald Trump kind of grabbed her inappropriately, fondled her inappropriately. So there are data points like that. And, when with those data points out there, Trump was Doe 174 in a civil case. Trump's labor secretary was the United States attorney who did the non-prosecution agreement with Epstein. So if I gave you all of those facts, plus Trump said that he would release the files, Bondi said she would release the files, and then they're not, that's problematic. That's interesting.
By the way, 100% you're right. It's problematic. And it's why I constantly say over and over and over again, enough with the speculation, release the freaking files. In that way, you and I aren't talking about circumstantial evidence, which, by the way, as a lawyer, you laid it out perfectly. You turn around, you took facts, not made up stuff, facts, things that whether Trump said it or somebody else said it, you took the facts, you laid it out in a very cogent manner, item by item by item, in order to achieve a certain determination at the end. And by the way, many cases are won and lost using that specific right. I turn around and say, those cases that do that are generally not cases that have files with million documents in it that will tell us exactly what we want to know. And that's why I blame Congress now, including, most importantly, Republican members of Congress. You say you want it, fucking do something about it. Turn around and demand that it goes to the vote on the floor, which is what we're expecting to see on September 2nd. But my suspicion is that they've already been contacted by the powers that be, whether it's DOJ or maybe Todd Blanche or somebody else, and been told, I wouldn't even try that shit, because if you do, we're going to primary somebody against you, yada, yada, yada. So they're willing to keep their power at the expense of the release of this information. Yeah. Shame on all of them. And you know what? Just release the file. Let me just leave it at that.
Yeah, look, September 3rd, Midas Touch Network will be streaming the press conference with Congressmember Ro Khanna and Congressmember Thomas Massie and the victims. So
by the way, hold on. I'm sorry, Ben. I'm so sorry, because one of our brigaders, and there's a couple of us saying that, Ben, did I deny that Donald Trump's name is in that file? Or did I not just say, brigaders, did I not just say, yes, his name is in the file? We just don't know in what capacity. Am I not making myself crystal clear?
No, where I think though that the point that I was making by listing all of those things is that the capacity with which he was in contact with Epstein is not a mere passing reference of, look, if Epstein donated $100 million to Harvard, could there be the name of a professor who gets an endowment as a result of the money? To me, that's a little bit different than, did that professor get massages at Epstein Island, or did that professor hang out with Epstein and young girls, or did that professor say Epstein is a fantastic guy who likes him young? So I think the issue is that based on all we know of the Trump-Epstein relationship, it not just raises problems, it raises red flag after red flag after red flag. Then when you just take Donald Trump's own actions, he's been found liable for sexual assault in a civil federal case. He's been found liable. He's on audio saying that because you're rich, you can grab women by their genitals and get away with it. He's on audio talking about a very young Lindsay Lohan who may have just turned 18, saying that because she was having mental issues, that made him want to have sex with her, because the ones who have mental health issues are the ones that are best in bed. Why is that? Is what he says. Why is that always the case? You have him saying that this is how men talk in front of college kids at the Young Republicans Club. Trump says that's locker room talk, and it's very courageous to say these things about women and then call it locker room talk. So it goes back, Cohen, I think, though, to what I said, which is you take all of that, then you take what you and I would call in the legal profession either spoliation of documents, which adverse infer. So if someone in a discovery context in litigation has custody and control over documents and either tampers with it or refuses to produce it, what a judge will do is do what's called give an adverse inference instruction to say, look, jury, because they're not turning it over, you may now adversely infer whatever is in there is going to be bad. So I guess I think the comments, in general are like, at what point should we as a society give the adverse inference that you're hiding based on all these other factors?
Right. I'm 100% with you, but at the same point in time, all I can keep doing, because September 3rd has not come yet, keep putting pressure on our representatives to demand the release. Congress has that right. And let's just keep putting as much pressure as we can. Call your representative. You are Republican. If you're Democrat and you live in a Republican state, you call up the representative from your district and you say, all right, shithead, it's your obligation to demand, to vote alongside those Democrats that are demanding the release of the file. Plain and simple. Let's just flood their phones with calls demanding that they vote in the affirmative for the release of the files.
Well, what we're going to do on the Midas Touch Network is we're going to share that stream of the victims. We're going to be working with the House in an informal capacity. I mean, we're going to be streaming it. Others can stream it too. But we will be making sure that our stream is the most widely watched stream to get the voice of the victims out. Cohen, two-finger salute. Who does it go to?
Goes to Howard Nutlick for being a complete and total asshole. Listen, I know Nutlick for over 25 years. I know him longer than I know Donald. And what he is doing right now, this ass-kissing instead of turning around like I would do, what he is doing right now, this ass-kissing instead of turning around like I would do and say to the president, you can't do that. All right. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. 11 billion here. By the way, what's $11 billion when you have a $27.5 trillion budget? It's like a pimple on the ass of a rhinoceros, all right? Or a hippopotamus. It's stupid. It's just plain stupid. And it just reeks. It reeks of authoritarianism, which everybody's calling him a dictator. He thinks it's funny. I don't think it's funny. I don't think our democratic republic is a joke. Plain and simple, Howard, my old friend, fuck you, dude.
So think about it like this, and let's just all use the logic here. You mentioned $11 billion, right, of America now taking over Intel and probably going to cause significant economic harm that will ripple and harm our economy by multiples of that 11 billion. But think about the budget for ICE. What, close to $200 billion, more than mostly every military across the world. And if you think about it, what they're doing is they're taking kind of untrained people without kind of the requisite background and skills. They're offering them $50,000 signing bonuses and basically payment of $150,000 a year to become stormtroopers, right? To become the Gestapo and to disappear mostly non-criminal migrants who are working and contributing to the economy. So if you just wanted, I like to take a moral view of these things and say this is grotesque from a moral perspective. But if you wanted to even look at it from an economic perspective, just think about it this way. So we're getting rid of migrants who are working on, who, by the way, who deserve a pathway to citizenship and deserve transparency.
We're doing jobs that no American wants to do.
Who are working in restaurants and farms, that were doing important jobs. And there should be comprehensive immigration reform to keep a very strong border and to also give people pathways to citizenship who are here paying taxes and doing the right thing. But you're getting rid of them. You are giving hundreds of billions of dollars to ICE to break the law, which then has legal fees associated with that. That could be in the trillions of dollars. You're then allowing, as Trump said he would allow because of his friendship with Xi Jinping, 600,000 students from China who we know when they're here, by and large, are going to go back to China with that knowledge and not stay here. That's the 5-10 year plan of China. So you're replacing an American workforce and
Stream
migrant
Elements says,
workforce working
Old
in
Mage
America
Guy is now live.
with
Streaming
mostly
politics.
Chinese
Morning New with
students,
OMG.
more than the deportations, who will then go back to China, spending $200 billion on ICE, taking shares of private companies. When I just did that analysis, both on a moral level and an economic level, how do you call yourself a conservative and go along with what Donald Trump's doing? You're not. I mean, you're just a dictator fanboy or fangirl or whatever at this point, and just admit that's what you've always wanted. You were never about states' rights. You were never about limited government. You were never about, the private sector does it right. You were never about strict textualism in the Constitution. What you were about is you thought that the Confederates shouldn't have lost the Civil War, and you don't like a democracy as well, one of those, and you want a strong man fascist dictator who goes along and says they alone can fix it, who behaves the way Kim Jong-un and Putin and Orban behave. Like, that's what you want. So rather than gaslight me and say, oh, I like democracy, no, just say you like those things, and then we could have a debate. And you could, but don't tell me you're conservative. Don't tell me you're limited government. Don't go give me that shit. Give me the real, and then we'll have a real discussion. And I'll leave it at that. But to me, what I just did, what we've done here, Cohen, is show what we're talking about shouldn't be all that political. This should just be kind of common sense.
By the way,
stuff.
we should have finished with this show a half hour ago if they would just release the fucking files.
All right. Make sure you subscribe.
I think that's where we're at. Yep.
Here's everything you need to start playing D&D online. First, a group of friends. A group of 4 to 6 players works best with one.
Donald Trump just wrapped up a disastrous cabinet meeting. It lasted 4 hours. I watched it all. I'm going to bring you the lowlights in a very abbreviated form. Here, Donald Trump talks about there's an army of black women who say they love him so much and they want him to invade their cities with the National Guard. Play this clip.
You have a force of black women. They're like only Trump. They want Trump to come in. And you see them. They're all over the place in Chicago.
Then Donald Trump talks about California Governor Gavin Newsom and says he's really good looking, very handsome, but he has something going on with the hand, some hand action going on there. Here, play this clip.
Can't handle it. You have an incompetent governor there. You have an incompetent governor in California, Gavin. I know him very well. He's incompetent. He's a nice guy, looks good. Hi, everybody. How you doing? He's got some strange hand action going. I don't know what the hell his problem is. It's a little weird, to be honest. There's a little something shaky going on there. But,
this was Donald Trump's hand during this disastrous cabinet meeting. Okay. Then Donald Trump says that he actually likes being called a dictator. He says that most people say, if you stop crime, become our dictator, Donald. No one is saying that, but Trump talking about becoming a dictator and being a dictator at this cabinet meeting. Play this clip.
Terms, and will be the big subject of the next election. Think of it. They are, instead of saying Trump's right about crime. It's really bad in Chicago. You have a guy in Illinois, the governor of Illinois, saying that crime has been much better in Chicago recently, and Trump is a dictator. And most people say, if you call him a dictator, if he stops crime, he can be whatever he wants. I'm not a dictator, by the way, but he can be whatever he wants.
Then, on the topic of being a dictator, Donald Trump says, I have the right to do anything that I want. I don't have to follow laws. I am the president, and that gives me the right to do anything. Here he is saying it. Play this clip.
So I would have much more respect for Pritzker if he'd call me up and say, I have a problem. Can you help me fix it? I would be so happy to do it. I don't love, not that I don't have the right to do anything I want to do. I'm the president of the United States. If I think our country's in danger, and it is in danger in these cities, I can do it. No problem going in and solving, his difficulties. But it would be nice if they'd call and they'd say, would you do it?
Then Donald Trump attacks President Zelensky of Ukraine, saying he's not innocent. Play this clip.
But it would be an economic war, and an economic war is going to be bad, and it's going to be bad for Russia, and I don't want that. Now, I have to also see, because not everybody, Zelensky's not exactly innocent either, okay? It takes two people to tango, and I say it all the time. You got to get them together. I get along with Zelensky now, but we have a much different relationship because now we're not paying any money to Ukraine.
Then when Donald Trump is confronted with the fact that Sergei Lavrov, Russia's foreign minister, says that Putin will never meet with Zelensky, will never sign a deal with Zelensky, and won't even entertain anything related to Zelensky because Russia says Zelensky is not legitimate. What's your response, Donald? Because you've been talking about ceasefire deals, trilateral meetings, security guarantees. Russia's saying the opposite. What's your response? Here, play this clip.
Mr. President, I have a question for Steve Witkoff, if I may.
Yeah.
This past weekend, Sergei Lavrov was saying that Putin will not sign a peace deal with Zelensky because Russia views him as illegitimate. Just wondering if the Russians have been relaying this to your team, if they view Zelensky, as a leader worth signing a peace deal with, if they will.
Doesn't matter what they say. Steve can answer, but I can answer too. Doesn't matter what they say. Everybody's posturing. It's all bullshit, okay? Everybody's posturing. Steve, do you have a different answer?
I agree with you, sir.
Oh, so Donald Trump just starts cursing. Very adult-like. It doesn't matter what they say. It's all bullshit. Come on. Act like an adult. Act like a grown-up. Just try to pretend that you have a position of power rather than behaving in this way. Oops, you can't. Oh, then Donald Trump says that all prices are down. Groceries way down. Energy's way down. Gas, it's $2.
next step.
Enemy battleship sunk. Enemy battleship detected. Enemy submarine spotted. Attention, reporting the target position. Enemy heavily damaged. Enemy battleship foundered.
All a lie, every aspect. None of this is true. None of anything that he says is true. Play this clip.
The wages for blue-collar workers are now rising at the fastest rate in 60 years, which is so important to all of us around this table. The average American worker has already seen a $500 wage increase this year, and there's no inflation because there's been decreases, tremendous decreases with, thanks to Doug and Chris, and some of the people, the great job they've done with energy. Thank you very much. And Chris, thank you very much. I see you down close to $60 a barrel, and you'll be breaking that pretty soon. And that has a huge impact. So we have groceries are down, energy is way down. Energy is way down. It was $4 and $5 for a gallon of gas. Think of that for gasoline, and now it's probably $2.25. There are some places it's $2. It broke $2 at a couple of locations in the South.
Then Donald Trump says, I don't understand why Democratic governors are not calling me up begging to be invaded. Please, Donald, invade my state. He said, if I was a Democratic governor, I'd call me up and say, invade me. Here, let's play it.
And if I were a governor, a Democrat governor, or mayor, or anybody having to do, I'd call up President Trump. I'd say, President Trump, we need your help. We saw what you've done in D.C. in a period of 12 days. This is 12 days. We haven't even started. This is going to be so safe. It's going to be the safest place on earth.
Then Donald Trump attacks Ukraine further and says that I'm sure Ukraine thought they were going to win this thing, but Russia's 15 times your size, so you're going to lose.
Right? War's very tricky, very horrible. But with war, you never know. Things change. People go into war, think they're going to win the war, and then they get their asses kicked, and they lose their country, and they lose millions of lives. Nobody goes into a war thinking they're going to lose. They go in. I'm sure that Ukraine thought they were going to win. It's going to be, we're going to win. You're going to beat somebody that's 15 times your size. Biden shouldn't have let that happen. Biden shouldn't have. The man was grossly incompetent. He should have never been there. That would have never happened. But you don't go into a war that's 15 times your size.
Then Donald Trump says, actually, Democrats love crime, which is not true, but this is how infantile these cabinet meetings are. Let's play it.
We're against crime. The Democrats like crime. I don't know why.
Then Donald Trump turns to Pam Bondi and says she's beautiful, but it'll end my political career if I say she's beautiful. Here, play this clip.
And then I saw this poor, stupid Chuck Schumer, the guy. He looks like he's aged 100 years, and I don't like getting into looks. Looks don't mean anything, right? When you're in politics, looks don't matter. I look at Pam, I would never say she's beautiful because that'd be the end of my political career. Laurie, secretary, but I will tell you.
Can you just release the Epstein files, please? Rather than creepily saying that your attorney general you think is beautiful, would be nice if you're attorney general and you stop covering up the Epstein files. Oh, and then Donald Trump says that North Carolina, which you should look forward to, is your grandkids building furniture in factories because we're going to take those jobs back from China. Start training your grandkids now how to build things with wood. Here, play this clip.
It's so sad. But we're going to rebuild North Carolina furniture and other places, South Carolina too, to a lesser extent. They make furniture. But furniture, we're going to put a very substantial tariff on. We've already announced it. It'll be done pretty quickly. And when that happens, everyone's going to start. I just tell you, North Carolina, go out and start getting the grandchildren and the children, start teaching them, because some of those incredible artists that I knew as young people, they're older people now, but they still have the talent and they have time left. But they're going to be teaching their sons and their daughters and their grandchildren. And it's going to be a beautiful thing to see. It's going to happen like magic. It's going to happen without question. It's not like, gee, I hope it happens. It's going to happen.
Really, Donald? Really, that's where you're going? I mean, you realize that China looked at American jobs and said, that's what we want to be, more high-paying, service-related jobs. And America looked at China and said, no, we want those sweatshops and factories here in the United States. No labor laws. Make your grandkids put widgets together. That's what making America great again. And they're not even doing it. Factories are closing and shutting down right now. So even if you say that, that's not actually what's taking place in this country, which, of course, Donald Trump lies about everything. Here, Donald Trump says that restaurants are opening again in D.C. They were all shut down, and now D.C.'s coming back to life, when the exact opposite is true. I spoke with the shadow senator of Washington, D.C., Senator Jane. I spoke with the council member council member, and both told me restaurants are shutting down and things have actually never been worse. Here, play this clip.
Badly.
Come on! What is this nonsense? Guys, I need some help. I'm lagging like crazy. Are there any other better emulators? I don't want to get bullied again because of lag. Yeah, right. Lag. LOL.
Hey, maybe try the official PC version? Rise of Kingdoms PC version gives governors the ultimate experience in multiple scenarios. Fighting and communicating with your allies is so much easier. Smooth frame rate and high-quality graphics also help governors with their overall experience. Oh, and of course, you can spot barbarians with ease. For governors who haven't tried Rise of Kingdoms PC version, go to the Rise of Kingdoms PC version website to check it out.
Hey guys, I'm getting swarmed. Send help!
Oops, my ally needs me now. Gotta go. Let me know how it goes.
But, and I bet you see a big difference in the streets right now. And this is only 12 days, but people are telling me they're going out to dinner now. They haven't, I told the story of my friend, but I have a lot of friends that are going out to dinner all the time now in D.C., and they weren't doing it 12 days ago. They would never even think. One of my friends went out 5 times. It was 4 times the last time I told. Now it's 5 times. He said, I love going out to dinner, and restaurants are starting to open again. A lot of them closed because, nobody wanted to go into a restaurant. Nobody wanted to get to a restaurant or even sit in the restaurant.
When was the last time you truly trusted the seafood you brought home? I used to question everything from nutrition and taste to sustainability until I discovered Wild Alaskan Company. Wild Alaskan Company is the best way to get wild-caught, perfectly portioned, nutrient-dense seafood delivered directly to your door. Trust me, you haven't tasted fish this good. I was so excited the first time I received my shipment from the Wild Alaskan Company. I received my Pacific halibut and pan-seared it that evening. It was delicious. The Wild Alaskan Company is 100% wild caught, never farmed. This means there are no antibiotics, GMOs, or additives. Just clean, real fish that support healthy oceans and fishing communities. It's nutrient rich and full of flavor. Wild Alaskan's fish is frozen off the boat to lock in taste, texture, and nutrients like omega-3s. My favorite, it's also sustainably sourced. Wild caught from Alaska, every order supports sustainable harvesting practices. And your membership delivers flexible shipments, expert tips, and a truly feel-good seafood experience.
Crap.
If
I'm
you're not
back.
completely satisfied
That
with
means
your
you heard the
first
entire
box,
bathroom. I'm sorry.
Wild Alaskan Company will give you a full refund, no questions asked. No risk, just high-quality seafood. Not all fish are the same. Get seafood.
Donald Trump says that MSNBC is worse than Tren de Aragua because Trump's just starting to say words like he goes MS, MS-13, MS, MSDNC. Here, play this clip.
Tell you, they showed one scene where a bunch of Tren de Aragua guys or whatever, maybe MS-13, maybe MSDNC, okay? Because to me, they're worse. I think they're worse. MSNBC maybe is worse than Tren de Aragua. Real scum, real dishonest people. But anyway, they went into this gang, I think.
Then Donald Trump says that he's reducing prescription drug prices by 1,500%. Again, 100%. You can't lower things more than 100%, Donald, but play this clip.
Right.
That can be done.
They become free.
His favored nations, Bobby. And we're not talking about a 25% cut or a 50. We're talking about a 1,500% cut. Because people go to Europe to buy drugs and they come back with drugs, prescription drugs, normal, not, I don't mean the bad drugs, I mean prescription drugs.
And then Donald Trump says that foreign nations are paying America trillions of dollars right now, literally trillions of dollars. Here, let's play this clip.
Thank you, Brooke. And we have negotiated historic trade deals with the United Kingdom, China, Indonesia, Vietnam, the Philippines, Japan, South Korea, who was here yesterday, and the European Union. Foreign nations are now paying hundreds of billions of dollars straight into our treasury, and numbers that nobody's ever seen before. As you know, we made trade deals with a lot of countries, and many of those countries, just to be able to sit at the table, are paying us hundreds of billions of dollars. We made a trade deal with the European Union. They were rough on us for a long time, and now we have a very good deal. We made that with them. Trillions of dollars is coming into our country. Trillions. Far beyond billions. Trillions of dollars. Wouldn't you say, Scott?
Yes, sir.
And in a short period of time, they have to buy $750 billion worth of our energy product. Energy is great. We have more than anybody else, and we're using it.
Oh, and finally, Donald Trump says that he brought in hundreds of millions of gallons in water to put out the fires in Southern California back in January, which again is a total lie. Donald Trump released billions of gallons from reservoirs in Central to Northern California, which are in no way connected at all to Southern California. And after the fires were 100% contained, so you got rid of water that was needed by the farmers in a completely different area of California. But Trump brags, I did it by force. Look how strong I am. I'm invading American states and I'm using force to drain water into areas where it shouldn't go. Play this clip.
But I think that's actually just an excuse. I actually think these people are sick. There's something wrong. So we send hundreds of millions of gallons of water a day into the Pacific Ocean. They turn a valve and the valve heads out and we turn the valve back. I actually had to do it using force. We turned the valve back and now they have water, but not as much as they should have because
this was one of his biggest gaffes so far when it comes to economic, or not economic, I mean, yeah, it does tie to the economic, but it was a disaster. 100%. No clue what was going on, how anything was held up, and just decided to let a bunch of water loose. That was actually being saved up for farmers over the summer. In a spot where that water was never reaching the other farmers that supposedly needed it. When they too need it during the summer, but need their own source, their own supply. So, he was a real cobblehead move. And that's why I call him the Coppertone Cobblehead.
They should, and I'm telling you.
I'll go one better off. Figuring out the situation was so easy a caveman could do it. A caveman could look at the water way over there and go, no, it needs to be way over here, and go, okay, but this river rid over this way, not there where we need. Of course, put it in whatever their speech was, but you get the idea. Even a caveman could see that this was not right. Nothing against Native Americans. Native Americans were smart. A lot smarter than this. They'd be looking at that going, what's wrong with you? Somebody get the medicine man. I wish that was a joke. I do.
Gavin Newsom by this conversation right
Stream
now.
Element
Turn
says,
the rest of the
find
water
me
on.
in other places Discord, Twitter,
Start your
YouTube,
adventure on
Steam,
a fresh
Xbox,
Classic
and
Plus realm
PlayStation
that
Old
puts the
Mage Guy on
RPG
TikTok as
back
Mage.
into Azeroth.
Turn it on.
Then you had this suck up fest. This part got really weird in the cabinet meeting, where then you had all the cabinet members start praising Donald Trump in the weirdest anti-American Kim Jong-unist way. Here's Kristi Noem. Let's play it.
Kristi?
Well, Mr. President, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to work for you. And you committed when you ran for president to make America safe again. And today, the average family and individual that lives in this country is safer than they've been in years because of what you've done.
Here's Tulsi Gabbard. Let's play it.
And they could never make America great again, but we are doing that. Congratulations, you found some interesting things, Tulsi.
Sir.
She's becoming a bigger and bigger star every day. She found a lot of good things. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. As we approach Labor Day weekend here, this is just such a great opportunity really to recognize your leadership as a true champion for working people. And I know we'll hear as we go around the table here how your focus singularly on putting the well-being and interests of the American people first is that common thread that we're seeing in your policies being implemented across your administration.
Here's Kelly Loeffler. Let's play it.
Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, everyone knows there's no stronger advocate for hardworking American families than you.
Here's Lori Chavez DeReamer. Let's play it.
One, if you all haven't stopped by the Department of Labor, Mr. President, I invite you to see your big, beautiful face on a banner in front of the Department of Labor, because you are really the transformational president of the American worker, along with the American flag and President Roosevelt, because we're bringing business and labor together. And I was so honored to unveil that yesterday, and everybody is taking note of that.
Here's Steve Witkoff. Let's play it.
Mr. President, working for this government, for you, is the greatest honor of my life. I tell it to everybody, and I really do feel that way, and I thank you, because it's a privilege to go out there and represent you in your humanitarian effort, in your goals of solving conflicts all over the world. I think there were actually more than 7 conflicts that you've put to bed in the last 8 months. And I hear these, I travel all over the world. In Hostage Square, they talk about you reverentially. It's really quite amazing. I sometimes wish.
Oh, and by the way, here Howard Lutnick, Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary, just wanted everybody to know that when we control the modes of production, that that's not socialism at all. That's capitalism. When the government takes over private business, that's capitalism. Here, play this clip.
No, it's not capitalism.
Right? The Biden administration had given $11 billion to Intel, given it to them. Done. Corporate just gift. And you turn that into really, it was like less than 5 minutes of conversation. And Intel agreed to give us 10% of their company, which of course was worth $11 billion. So it's not socialism. This is
Doug Burgum sucking up to Donald Trump. Let's play it.
Terry, you have breathed life back into the profession of law enforcement. Your respect for law enforcement is so incredible. It's making a difference.
Here's Marco Rubio sucking up to Donald Trump. Let's play it.
You've been great. Thank you very much, sir. So, Marco, go ahead.
Well, Mr. President, first of all, everyone's made this comment already and needs to be echoed again. You were elected as the president of working Americans, and that's why this Labor Day is so meaningful. For me personally, this is the most meaningful Labor Day of my life as someone with 4 jobs. And so... it's true.
All very weird and strange. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers. Thank you so much for watching.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the Midas Touch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.
So, some of my comments and answers to...
We are at war.
You're not wrong. Some of my comments and answers to questions involving Epstein's files from a few years back. Yeah. Anyways, that stuff's coming up again on Quora and getting attention. To be kind of understandable at this point in time. But as the theme song goes, yeah, I really am pretty much everywhere. To say I'm not would be very much lying. I'm currently kind of hoping to hear from someone on the Midas Touch team. These guys that we are currently listening to. Because I have an idea. A very smart yet devious idea. Trump has fired at us by making it illegal to be homeless and criminalizing it. Which means we are being criminalized just to live, just to exist. This is not okay. Not okay at all. And he wanted to ignore the No Kings protests. Okay, I say we make it to where he can't ignore what we have to say. And I know how. I know rather well how. He thinks he's untouchable up there in the president's seat. He's not. As a matter of fact, we can reach him. We can reach him really easily, actually. So, yeah. I very much have a plan that wouldn't cost any one person more than $30 if they wanted to go full extent. 5 to 10 if they just wanted to be able to take part. something cheap. Excuse me. Something that you could go, hey, this is what's going on. Here's this. Do it. Do this. And I've got a way that they can be seen. And I mean, enough that it'll make the news. There are a few different things that I know really well. Psychology, especially narcissistic personality disorder, that are rather useful. But enough about the theory, or not theory, but idea. Back onto the news.
We are at war with the Trump administration, with his dictator policies, with his attempt to occupy democratic cities and states, his raids of political opponents through the FBI, his going after the independence of the Federal Reserve Bank, his trying to destabilize everything around him in order for him to be the strongman dictator. He said it out loud during his own pressers, where he mused to try to groom America into accepting a dictatorship by saying, I don't think all Americans think dictatorship is bad. We are at war. We're not just at war because Donald Trump is thinking about renaming the Department of Defense, the Department of War. I don't like defense. It sounds weak. We should go back to Department of War. We are at war. Well, you're on the intersection with Michael Popak on the Midas Touch Network. But on today's episode, we're at war. And I think the sooner we reorient our approach and reorganize our brain to that position of offense, not defense, and recognize that we are at war to save our democracy, the better off we're going to be, and things will fall into place a lot better for us. Let's start with what I've said on my Substack Live for Legal AF just the other day, which I'm now developing more as my working theory, that Donald Trump is obviously grooming America for a number of things. Predators groom, and he is grooming America and trying to socialize things like dictatorship is okay. It's okay to use the D word. The D word for us is not dictatorship, it's democracy. And to have a president of the United States that occupies the Oval Office.
This game, you're not ready for.
Who so casually throws around the term, I'm not a dictator, but I'd like to be, or I'd be one on day one, or this is, there's some polling out there that shows not everybody's upset about dictatorships. While he hosts in the Oval Office the president of South Korea, at the same time in front of the guy, compliments the strongman dictator of North Korea. And at the same time, here's my working theory. He's grooming America for a possible coup or takeover. See, you have to take over that which you do not currently occupy.
Yeah.
So a president, we don't normally talk about a president having to occupy anything because that person is, by definition, the most powerful person in the world and the leader of our democracy and the leader of the free world, generally. So he doesn't have to worry about taking over states. The states all pledge allegiance to our constitutional republic, and the leader of that being the president of the United States. That's not the world that we find ourselves in with Donald Trump. He has split the country right down the middle. Not quite down the middle. 23 blue states or so, 27 red. I'm not talking population now. I'm just talking head count. And because the Democrats and the independents and the fair-minded people occupy one sphere that he's not in, he sees it as a threat. And so his number one goal is to destabilize not only democracy, but the Democrats' brand, trying to move to a one-party system, which is a page out of a playbook of dictatorship. And my working theory is that's the reason he needs to occupy with armed forces and our U.S. military states and cities. And I don't mean just any. I mean blue states and blue cities. It's occupation forces.
Yeah.
And threats of occupation forces, plain and simple. And he's being supported by what I refer to as the Red Army. The Red Army is the National Guard from red states being sent in to reinforce Donald Trump's assault on liberty, assault on states' rights, assault on sovereignty of the states and the 10th Amendment. That's what we're watching. DC and LA, a dress rehearsal. Dress rehearsal for a potential coup in the future. We are at war. And I don't say that either cavalierly or as if that's a bad thing, because this war, this dispute has been brought to our shores by Donald Trump and not the other way around. We didn't ask for it, but now that we're here, we need to fight our way through it. I mean, one of the things I teach or had taught lawyers that worked for me about how to practice law, I would tell them, we are not going to be the first litigation team or the first side to drag a case into the gutter or the sewer. But by God, if we are dragged into the sewer or to the gutter, we are going to brass knuckle our way out. We're at the brass knuckle our way out moment, everybody. You've got occupation forces in DC, reinforced in LA, a threat against Chicago, a threat against Philadelphia. 4 major cities are run by Black Americans. They are under assault. It's a war. Donald Trump is not only going after the Democratic brand, but he's going after the Democratic leadership, its icons, its idols, and a fair amount of Black leadership and Black female leadership. Does anybody think it's a shock that he's opened up federal probes as the chief law enforcement officer against Letitia James, the Black New York Attorney General, who took him down a number of times, including for civil fraud? Or that he's going after Lisa Cook now? We'll talk about that in the next segment. The Federal Reserve governor, who has her chair until 2038, also Black. Or Mayor Bowser in D.C., also Black. The Atlanta mayor, Black. Chicago, Black. Los Angeles, Black. And as I just outlined, many of them women. Which hopefully is a wake-up call for that particular community who doubled their turnout for Donald Trump. I mean, I'm not blaming anybody. There's many reasons that Kamala Harris did not win that election. We could do a whole show on it. We could do a whole seminar on it. But it didn't help that the Black vote went 8% to 16% in favor of Donald Trump. I hope now, seeing the attacks on these communities of color by Donald Trump, by his occupying forces and otherwise, will be that wake-up call.
The bugs just broke through the east line, and the bots are still scrambling for crystals. We're barely holding on, and yeah, my new nails.
Which will help us at the midterms. So you have the working theory that we are at war, that Donald Trump is trying through occupation forces, reinforced by the Red Army of the National Guard of red states, doing a test run in Democratic strongholds that he's aimed at, Chicago next on the list, as a test case, as a dress rehearsal, as a dry run, to see how much in terms of authoritarian abuse and how much of America he can put under his heel before he is stopped. We are at war. And again, I don't say that to make you feel bad, to make you feel like we're the victims. This is a war we can win, but this is a war we have to win. And I don't mean by taking up arms. I'm not talking about a Second Amendment solution. I'm talking about at the ballot box, in the streets, in the marketplace of ideas, in the public square, in our resistance in every way, shape, or form. We shall overcome this administration, but we have to do it working together. The socializing of dictatorship and normalizing of it has to stop as well, mainstream media plays right into Donald Trump's hands because they, in the middle of this long news feed, you just see, that CNN or MSNBC or any of our competitors, I guess they're called, they'll be like, oh, this happened and this happened and this happened. And Donald Trump said a lot of Americans are okay with dictatorship and this happened and this happened. Like, stop. Can we go back a few? That's how you report it? So they leave it to us on Legal AF and on Midas Touch to say our hair is on fire, say that we are at war. And these were declarations of war by Donald Trump. I'm not saying he's a dictator, although I am. But I am saying that other dictators think he's a dictator. That's why Donald Trump's closest relationships are not with Europe, not with our allies, not with the president of Europe, as Donald Trump likes to call the head of the EU. It's with dictatorships. It's the Orbans of the world. It's the North Koreans of the world. It's the China of the world and the Russia of the world. I mean, could he have bootlicked Putin any harder during his last stop here in the United States? From the military being forced to, U.S. military being forced to bend the knee in front of Putin, as Donald Trump, like a 4-year-old, applauded, apologies to 4-year-olds, applauded for his enemy, his adversary, before a big meeting. Okay. What did Trump think? He was going to PowerPoint Putin to death? Is that how that was going to work? He was going to kiss his ass enough that Putin would say, okay, I'll stop bombing. I mean, a couple of days after the meeting, Putin bombed an American interest in Ukraine. Also on the way into Alaska, killed 11 Ukrainians in a bombing in Kiev, including a child. That's who we're dealing with. We're now 2 weeks out from the big meeting with Zelensky in the White House. Everybody kumbaya. Where is it? Where's the ceasefire? There's no ceasefire. Where's the peace deal? There's no peace deal. As Donald Trump muses about being put on Mount Rushmore. Not kidding. By the way, that's never happening. Don't. I know we're at war, but that's not one of it. That's not happening. Chisel his features, his fat, jowly face into Mount Rushmore.
Ugh.
Not happening.
No.
Not happening.
Never.
But he muses about it, among other weird tics that Donald Trump has developed over the years that he says out loud. So we then watch, my other working theory as I move down the chain here, is that Donald Trump has on his shelf a whole bunch of things that he wants to release, but only at the right moment. If he loses something big during the day, by the afternoon, he will take that thing off the shelf and he will announce it. So when he loses Abrego Garcia's hearing, we'll talk about that, and is forced to keep Abrego Garcia in America so that the judge, in the case Judge Zinnes, can conduct a petition for writ of habeas corpus hearing, and that's seen as a big loser, and he gets bad press about saying that some Americans are okay with dictatorship and complimenting dictators in front of the South Korean president all in the same day while he's hugging and almost French kissing the World Cup, the solid gold World Cup. Again, this is a weird stew of a brain, and that's putting it mildly. What does he do in the late afternoon? He drops the bomb. I'm firing Lisa Cook. Federal Reserve, even though he can't do it the way certainly can't do it the way he's trying to do it. And that sucks the air out of the room on all the bad media reporting and the rest of it. His full frontal assault on the independence of the Federal Reserve. But he times these things. You watch it. If a bad news cycle hurts him, he'll try to change the news cycle with something on his shelf, his bag of dirty tricks. It's just a bag filled with monkey wrenches. He just pulls another monkey wrench out and throws it. That's all. That's all he's got. The Ghislaine Maxwell release of the recordings of her interview is another prime example of my other working theory, that Donald Trump times the release of new information or new executive orders or new lawsuits or new federal probes to step on stories that are bad for him. Ghislaine Maxwell gave that interview more than 3 weeks ago to Todd Blanche, about the Epstein child sex trafficking crimes. I won't go over the details. We did it on Legal AF this past Saturday, and I've done it in Substack Live. I encourage you to come over to Legal AF Substack Live as well. Great way to support what we're doing on Legal AF. We have about 80,000 people there now in less than a couple of months, and I'm doing these lives, sort of like this, but I can do it at the minute, at the moment, at the market. Pull everybody together, do a huddle, get 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 people together, and we talk about an issue, and then I put the video up for everybody to see during the day. I'm doing that 2 to 3 times a day. A day.
Let me respawn in Rome, please. Yes. Our city currently has a population of 9.
And bringing on guests as well. And we did a good, I think, analysis of having read the 300 pages of what it showed. So I won't bore you with the details here other than to say what's 300 pages long and filled with crap. And that would be the Ghislaine Maxwell lies upon lies upon lies and denials upon denials. Not only did she not take responsibility for what she did, she said there was nothing to take responsibility for. Nothing happened. So how do you explain the thousands of victims, including that were girls that were raped at the time by you and Epstein? How do you explain their existence? You can't. It's a inconvenient fact that she can't explain away. But that transcript was available the night of. I do this for a living. The court reporter will turn that over to you the night of. That was 3 weeks ago. They just dropped it 2 days ago. Yeah, they dropped it 2 days ago because they didn't like what was coming out of the Oversight Committee in Congress and bad news reports there against the Trump administration, with them going after the Epstein files in the Department of Justice and the hearings and all of that, and they needed to step on that story. Hence, Ghislaine Maxwell's transcript gets announced. So we're at war. And the way that we're going to win this war is to be together in community, in fellowship, because only together will we be able to defeat the Trump administration and overcome the Trump administration. It's the only way. And Trump knows that. And that's why he tries to tear us apart and put each of us at each other's throats in America, because he needs a seething cauldron of people upset with their neighbors in order to succeed as president. He's not the great unifier. He's the great divider. His entire power grab and power network is based on division and the frisson that's created by that and the energy that is created by that, right? The heat, that no light, but heat that is created by that. He needs it to fuel his dictatorial, dictator-like conduct, plain and simple. We are at war. We're going to talk about his striking out against the Federal Reserve in a way that even shocked Wall Street. They thought he got off the kick of trying to get rid of Jay Powell. They didn't realize he was going to go after Lisa Cook and try to get rid of her and try to fire her and cause another constitutional crisis. And the markets responded. I'm going to cover that. The Abrego Garcia developments, which are all bad for Donald Trump. A couple of other orders that we just got out, including kind of concerning Abrego Garcia. 2 more losses for the Trump administration, this time by a Trump-appointed judge and a Republican-appointed judge. I'll do all that when we come back from our first break, but let me just say this before we take the break. It's just an honor to be here with you on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. on the Midas Touch Network on the show called The Intersection. I can't think of a finer group of people for me to spend my time with, to do my work for. I was out today for lunch, got a lunch break, went to a restaurant, local restaurant, and one of the managers there kept kind of looking over at me. I kept looking over at him, smiling. I thought he was just welcoming like a guest. Came over, he said, "Are you that guy that does that commentary on YouTube?" I said, "I am." And then he just had this warm embrace, warm handshake. He said, "Keep it up, man. Keep up what you do." And that fuels, in our audience, fuels what we do. I mean, from the time that the brothers get up and I get up, Katie Fang, we all get up in the morning, say goodbye to our families, brush our teeth, start our day. All we're thinking about is the war and defending our democracy and being the first responders with you into the burning building of our democracy and to save it from Donald Trump. That's all literally I think about all day. And this gentleman was a Canadian of Jamaican descent living in this country for years and is scared. I can see it in his eyes, and I appreciate it. I understand it. And but we got to do this together. And the way to support us is let's keep the intersection moving up the charts. Leave a comment here, pass this along to other people, ask them to watch it for views on YouTube. Then we're on audio. Yeah, some people don't know that. We're on audio podcast platforms. Just plug in the intersection, boom, and my smiling, where's that come from? My smiling face will pop up, and download that. We could use more download love, as they say in the business. And then we've got a couple of different ways to consume and join and become a part of our audience for Legal AF, which is where I do my day job. And Legal AF, the YouTube channel, is growing by leaps and bounds. We're going to hit 1 million before the new year. We've only been around for less than a year. But come over there, hit the subscribe button, 12 amazing contributors, 10 videos a day, all about law and politics. And now more than ever, that's the break the glass place to be, right? And then we've got this new thing we started. I don't say it's not a new thing to us, but it's called Substack. And we're on Legal AF Substack. And we've only been there for 2 months. We're pushing 100,000 subscribers now on that. I figured out where the Live Plus button was, and I'm hitting that Live Plus button 2-3 times a day and doing a huddle with 2,000 or 3,000 people without any notice. I mean, I'm trying to keep them around 11 o'clock, maybe 8 or 9 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock in the morning kind of thing, Eastern time. But it's just so immediate. There's such an energy about bringing the audience together on Legal AF Substack. We've got other content up there as well, no doubt. But the lives, man, I'm living in the lives right now. And that's headquarters. That's HQ for the war to save our democracy. So, we have speaking of saving our democracy, we've got some amazing pro-democracy sponsors, and here's a word from them right now. Fall is planting season, but did you know that many plants and trees actually do better when planted this time of year? But you have to know where to start. That's why I love Legal AF. Welcome back to the intersection. I want to cover a number of losses for the Trump administration in the last 48 hours. And let me see if I can do it in reverse order. Let's start with the case about Donald Trump. Did you hear the one about Donald Trump suing all 12 federal judges in Maryland to disqualify them because he didn't like the chief judge's rule that he had to keep human beings in America for 48 hours and not send them to the torture prisons abroad, while a federal judge provided oversight over whether due process was being properly preserved? Did you hear that one? Well, we've got the ruling. Donald Trump had a number of ways to challenge the chief judge of Maryland's decision. I call it the Abrego-Garcia rule, to require that if a writ of habeas corpus petition is filed, to get somebody sprung from jail or incarceration and bring them before a federal judge to make sure due process and habeas corpus rights were being preserved. There's a reason that the judge entered a local rule for all judges in Maryland. First of all, Judge Zinnes sits in Maryland. She was already handling the Abrego-Garcia case, where he got sent illegally to El Salvador, where upon arrival he was tortured and then took months to bring him back, and even then brought back in a manufactured indictment in Tennessee for human trafficking and thrown back into another hole. So pardon me if the chief judge looked at that and said, well, I don't want that to happen again with this Trump administration. So he already had Abrego-Garcia. He also obviously had eyes and ears and could read, and saw that in the case involving Judge Boasberg in D.C., 200 people not named Abrego-Garcia were sent to El Salvador without any due process rights at all. So he said, taking a page from the appeals court, how about this? How about nobody goes anywhere for the first 48 hours while a federal judge determines whether the writ of habeas corpus petition is properly filed, has merit, makes a decision about due process. How about that? And Donald Trump didn't want that. No. Donald Trump doesn't want that. On a hot take I did about this earlier today, I used my Willy Wonka Veruca Salt voice. No, Yet he wants it now. They must be removed immediately. No due process. How's that? So, you see, I'm a frustrated actor. So, Donald Trump, if he didn't like that local rule in federal court issued by a federal judge, a chief judge, there's a way around it. In the Fourth Circuit, which sits over Maryland, you file an objection with the council of the Judicial Council for the Fourth Circuit, and they can strike it under a statute. They can strike a local rule if it somehow violates like immigration law or some other law. He doesn't do that. He files a motion, a complaint, and a petition to disqualify the entirety of the 12 members of the federal bench in Maryland. Okay. Once you do that, those 12 members can't hear your case because you're challenging them, including Judge Zinnes. So the Fourth Circuit Chief Judge sends the case to Virginia, and it ends up in the lap of Judge Cullen. You could say he drew the short straw, but he is a Trump appointee from the first term. But I knew this was not going to go well for the Trump administration because at the oral argument, Cullen was like, this sounds like lawlessness. This sounds like a constitutional catch me if you can. How can you possibly, if you don't like the rule, how can you possibly sue to disqualify all 12 members of the bench? It's just not the right way to do it. And now we got the ruling. And Judge Cullen said point blank, because he could have just said petition dismissed. 2 lines, be done with it. No. He spent 39 pages excoriating the Trump administration in a scorching opinion, but very diplomatic. I mean, he's a good writer. He's more of a country club Republican than a MAGA, the way I'm reading it. But he dropped a footnote early on and he said, this is an administration that has, unfortunately and wrongfully, gone after and attacked members of the federal judiciary, creating an inter-branch, the 3 branches, inter-branch conflict and crisis that's unnecessary. He's called, and then he listed it, he's called federal judges leftists, liberals, criminals, Marxists, and then he said, and worse. He also quoted Harvey Wilkerson, the judge from the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, who's very well respected in Republican circles, as saying, we can't have, while some friction and tension between the branches is one thing, but we can't have out and out war. Here we go. There's that theme for me today. Out and out warfare waged by the executive branch against the judicial branch. And so the judge dismissed the petition. And in doing so, he also said, and you want me to dismiss this petition, Trump, effectively. Because if you don't, it's going to open the door to depositions being taken against your Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, against Kristi Noem, Homeland Security, and all the emails and all the information and letter writing correspondence between everybody in your executive branch is going to come flying out. And we're going to have a fight over privilege. But is that what you want? If you don't like the rule, the judge reminded them, then take it up with the Fourth Circuit Judicial Council. That's your path. And if you don't like this ruling, the judge says, you can appeal it. But I am dismissing your case. And again, now, by the way, in the meantime, the judges have been ruling and presiding over Trump cases in Maryland. It hasn't affected that. But if this judge had ruled, you're all disqualified, then we'd have to bring in judges from Virginia and other places in the Fourth Circuit to handle these matters, and that would be a disaster. But that's not going to happen because this judge sitting by designation in Maryland has just made that ruling. Now Trump's made the appeal already. Who cares? I said he's going to take an appeal. It'll go up to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. No friend of Donald Trump. They'll make their ruling, and if he doesn't like it, he can try to take it to the U.S. Supreme Court about whether over a rule, which I am sure that the majority on even this Supreme Court is going to find it completely appropriate to keep people here in America and not deported and removed away from federal jurisdiction and oversight. And it's very similar, what we just watched with this judge from Virginia's presiding over a Maryland case, very similar to what just happened with Alina Habba. So we'll pick up on that, right? Alina Habba gets a bad ruling, as does the Trump administration, by a judge, Judge Brand from the Middle District of Pennsylvania, sitting by designation in New Jersey, because a criminal defendant brought a motion to disqualify Alina Habba because she wasn't constitutionally and she was unlawfully appointed to the job of U.S. attorney through a backdoor process that violates the Federal Vacancy Act and violates the Constitution and the separation of powers and the role of the Senate to confirm a U.S. attorney. And so Judge Brand said, yeah, it's illegal, it's unlawful. Now, he's sitting by designation because 21 judges in New Jersey, one of the biggest districts, had to disqualify themselves because they all voted in unison against Alina Habba getting an extension of time to be the U.S. attorney there. And now she's on her media tour. Has anybody caught that? You know, on Hannity, on this right-wing podcast, on this one. Oh, Donald Trump won and everybody else lost. And I've got his full support. And it's a liberal activist judge. And Cory Booker and Senator Booker and Kim never even met me. And yet they're blocking my nomination. And all this other, whining. It's just, when did MAGA and Trump become such, and Republicans become such whiners? They're intolerable, insufferable to listen to. Really, they are. But we are at war. But these are the battles that we're winning, which is why I wanted to bring it to your attention. So that's Judge Cullen about the Maryland case, Judge Brand about the Alina Habba case. And then we also got a great ruling out of Judge Zinnes in the Abrego Garcia case. Just popped out, really, literally just popped out off of Friday and into today, and off of Monday afternoon. So Abrego Garcia swept off the streets illegally without due process, sent to El Salvador where he's tortured. These are all indisputable facts. He is ordered to return by Judge Zinnes, the Trump administration, to bring him back. Since he had
Stream
an order
Element
of
says,
non-removal related
find
to
me in
El
other
Salvador.
places: Discord, Twitter, YouTube,
Trump administration
Steam,
ignores it,
Xbox, and
lies to
PlayStation
federal
Old Mage
judges
Guy
like
on
Zinnes,
TikTok as Mage.
keeps him in the jails of El Salvador where he's tortured, and the Supreme Court rules for Judge Zinnes 9-0, as does the two Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals panels. They finally bring him back, but not because of those orders. They're defiant. They bring him back a few months later to Tennessee because they've manufactured charges there on a criminal indictment. The criminal indictment is so weak that a federal magistrate judge, Judge Holmes, on Friday releases him from pretrial detention. There's a separate motion to dismiss permanently the indictment for prosecutorial misconduct, including vindictive prosecution. And they added as grounds for vindictive prosecution that the Trump administration is trying to extort Abrego Garcia and his lawyers. They said, you got a release order from Judge Holmes, but stay in. Hear me out. Here's our deal. I'm sure the lawyers, and I know one of them, Sean Hecker, was like, okay, we're all ears. What's the proposal? The plea deal? All right, he'll plead guilty to the 2 counts that are in the indictment. You mean I'll just do my own narrative. You mean the indictment that we have a motion to dismiss for vindictive prosecution that's pending with Judge Crenshaw? Yeah, that one. Okay. So we plead guilty to that. And then what? We send you to Costa Rica. We send your client to Costa Rica. They're like, no. How about we go through a process? We fight the charges in Tennessee. We fight the removal process, and we see where we end up then. And they said, fine, then you're going to Uganda. I'm not making this up. This is the perverse, depraved nation that with Donald Trump is leading, that we're at war with. We're at war with the Trump-led United States. I guess that's the way to say it. So it ends up in front of Judge Zinnes because, no shock, when he went they called him in for an interview on Monday at ICE in Baltimore, and they took him and they whisked him away into custody. But the lawyers were ready for it. They knew it was a ruse. And so they filed a new petition for writ of habeas corpus. See, we are at war. We're using writs of habeas corpus in front of Judge Zinnes, who held an emergency hearing, and she issued the following order. And I'm barely paraphrasing. You, the Department of Justice, you, the United States of America, you are absolutely forbidden to remove him, Abrego Garcia, from the United States while I'm working out the petition for writ of habeas corpus and the briefing and the hearing and the evidentiary hearing around that. Do you understand that? And Drew Ensign, who's notorious for lying to Judge Zinnes, said, yes, it takes a while to send somebody to Uganda, Your Honor, or some version like that. It was eye-poppingly bad comment. She said, well, I don't know about all that, but I'm troubled by what appears to be the evidence that the United States is trying to get him to forfeit his constitutional rights in exchange for pleading guilty, or you'll send him to Uganda. That's not a trade that you're allowed to make. That abuses our constitutional system. So she's already kind of laid it out where she's going to end up on this particular thing. In the meantime, he's in Abrego Garcia is in a Virginia detention center, well crafted by his lawyers. He got to have a few minutes to address his supporters, which is now most of America. Came off as a very honorable and well-spoken person, for what it's worth, and then was whisked away into custody. So we're going to continue to follow the briefing schedule that is going to be laid out over the next week or two, and what is the final result related to all of that in the Abrego Garcia case. And then finally, another loss for the Trump administration, brought to you by, sounds like an ad campaign, brought to you by Democracy Forward. I love Democracy Forward. Come over to Legal AF Substack. You'll find them on a playlist. That's the public interest group law firm that brings lawsuits against Donald Trump. She has, Sky Perryman founded it. Her group has 80 lawsuits against the Trump administration, 80, and they're all doing great. And we just got a ruling from Judge Ross Lamperth, who's also a Republican-appointed judge in D.C., where he's about this close to finding the Trump administration and Kari Lake in contempt and holding a contempt trial over the Voice of America. Remember Voice of America? Yeah, they try to mothball it, take it in the back and shoot it. That's the way that we promoted our brand of democracy around the world. There were many ways we did that, all eliminated by Donald Trump. U.S. aid, USAID, $50 billion. Give it to people. Say, hey, isn't democracy great? Here, use this for your water treatment plant. Use this for your sewer system. Use this, for your roads and bridges. Think of America. And we got rid of that. Now it's China built, Russia built, because we've left a power vacuum and they've stepped into it. So that was U.S. aid. That was an extension of the State Department and humanitarian aid. And then we used media, no crap, newspapers and old school media and online media to promote American values so that people understood and would turn themselves towards our democracy and understood our brand of democracy and not the propaganda being promoted by our adversaries. It was a counterweight to the propaganda machine of the North Koreans, the Iranians, the Russians, and the Chinese. And Donald Trump got rid of it. But Ross Lamperth argued and issued an order in April that Voice of America be reinstituted, along with a bunch of other voices of America in different places, including refunded, give the funding back, get the people back, have a plan to get it up and running again. But it hasn't been running again. We're in August. So after getting a report from the plaintiffs, Lamperth called Kari Lake and her lawyers on the carpet and said, here's a long list of things I want answered on an order to show cause right now. What have you done to comply with the preliminary injunction? How have you restarted Voice of America? How have you refunded it? How have you made it a viable news source again? Tell me all of that. And they did. And the judge took a look at it and said, this is crap. This is not answering my questions. So we're going to try one more time. This is the judge and his order. We're going to try one more time. You, Kari Lake, and two others sit for deposition by the 15th of September. These are 7-hour-long questions and answers under oath. And when you're done, I'll take a look at the transcript and we'll see if you're in compliance or not. But this is the last stop before a contempt trial. See, Donald Trump loses 90% of the time in these kind of courts. And these appeals that he takes, like the one I just talked about, the one about disqualifying all of the federal judges, are ridiculous. But he's got to act tough. So this is what he does. But remember, we are at war. And so your whole aspect and your whole approach to defending this democracy and this constitutional republic with us has to change. It has to change now. And we'll continue to do it right here on The Intersection every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Join me on All Things Legal AF I co-founded the podcast, Legal AF the Podcast. That's on the Midas Touch Network. I co-founded and curate the Legal AF YouTube channel. That's its own independent thing. I do it in collaboration with Midas Touch, 10 new videos a day. Join us there. And then we've got the Legal AF Substack. Legal AF Substack is in a community where I can do instant live reporting, instant interviews, along with other written commentary and approaches. I think you're really going to enjoy what we've built on Legal AF Substack. Come join us and find out. So until my next report, until my next intersection, download it, 5-star review, leave a comment, all that great stuff. This is Michael Popak reporting. I'm Michael Popak, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popak Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popak Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popak Firm today at 1-877-POPAK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopakfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popak Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.
Don't raise dragons right off the bat. For new players, at the start of the game, don't rush to raise dragons.
Donald Trump is once again insisting he is not a dictator, even as his actions and words increasingly resemble those of a dictator. In the past week, he's used military force against American cities, signed unconstitutional executive orders, and openly toyed with the idea that perhaps the country would be better off under one-man rule. At a cabinet meeting today, Trump spent much of the time boasting about his federal takeover of Washington, D.C., and his planned deployment of troops to Chicago. He lashed out at Democratic governors like Maryland's Wes Moore and California's Gavin Newsom, accusing them of letting their states descend into lawlessness. The remarks followed a startling statement the previous day when, while signing an executive order in the Oval Office, Trump claimed, "A lot of people are saying, maybe we'd like a dictator."
As you all know, Chicago's a killing field right now. And they don't acknowledge it. And they say, we don't need him. Freedom, freedom. He's a dictator. He's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense, and I'm a smart person. And when I see what's happening to our cities, and then you send in troops, instead of being praised, they're saying you're trying to take over the republic. These people are sick.
Within seconds, he contradicted himself. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense and a smart person. Yet the contradiction is precisely the point. Trump flirts with the word dictator, then denies it, all while carrying out policies and issuing orders that defy constitutional limits and reinforce the perception that he has embraced authoritarianism. Trump has taken to describing his power grab as little more than common sense. The line is that I'm a dictator, but I stop crime, he said today. So a lot of people say, if that's the case, I'd rather have a dictator. He insisted again, I'm not a dictator, I just know how to stop crime. And you see, it's precisely this contradiction that gives him license to claim that he isn't when we all know that he is, and when he knows that he is. And as we've always said with Donald Trump, just flip everything that he says and you'll get to the truth. Well, Trump is admitting to being an authoritarian, admitting to being an autocrat, and now claiming that the people want that too. That message has become a refrain. During the 2024 campaign, Trump told rally crowds that he would act like a dictator on day one of his administration. He and his allies dismissed it as a joke at the time, but since retaking office in January, Trump has governed exactly that way, bypassing Congress, dismissing court rulings, and ordering sweeping executive actions that have no grounding in law.
Just hours from another Republican debate that he is skipping, frontrunner Donald Trump dominating headlines with this answer about abuse of power.
Do you in any way have any plans whatsoever, if reelected president, to abuse power, to break the law, to use the government to go after people?
You mean like they're using right now?
Pressed later.
You would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Except
Look,
what?
he's going crazy. Except for day one.
Meaning?
I want to close the border and I want to drill.
That's not retribution.
I'm gonna be, you know, he keeps, we love this guy. He says, you're not gonna be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one. We're closing the border and we're drilling. After that, I'm not a dictator, okay?
But Mr. Trump has long promised payback against political opponents.
Last week, he signed an order instructing states how to run their elections, despite the Constitution granting no such authority to the president. This week, he issued another executive order criminalizing flag burning with a mandatory year in prison, a direct violation of Supreme Court precedent and a blatant attack on the First Amendment. Trump calls this leadership. Legal experts call it unconstitutional rule by decree. It's not just the law that Trump disregards, but also the separation of powers. His regime has treated Congress and the federal judiciary not as co-equal branches of government, but as obstacles to be ignored. His Justice Department has targeted critics under his direction, from New York Attorney General Letitia James to Democratic Senator Adam Schiff, while the FBI has reportedly investigated former advisor John Bolton after his public criticism of Trump. Trump himself has also suggested that former President Barack Obama should also face investigation. These are the hallmarks of a leader bent on suppressing opposition.
He did all kinds of things like that, but the difference was that he understood you weren't supposed to be doing out in public. You're supposed to hide that kind of thing. That was the reason he got pushed out of office, was with a cover-up. There's no cover-up here. What's going on with this president is out in the open. He's not really making much of a pretense that this is anything other than retribution. Look what we saw just in the last few days, right? We saw FBI agents at John Bolton's house. We saw just yesterday the President of the United States say on social media that he was really angry at Chris Christie, the former governor of New Jersey, a one-time ally of his. He didn't like what Christie was saying on television, and therefore maybe he should reopen an investigation into a 12-year-old matter involving Christie, very openly saying that because Christie criticized him, Christie should be investigated. This is not secret. This is not hidden. This is right out in the open. When Elon Musk turned on Donald Trump, Trump said, hey, maybe I should take away all of his federal contracts. In other words, he is willing to not only use the instruments of power of government, which are supposed to be neutral and not political weaponry. He's willing to use them as weapons, and he's willing to basically make clear that he's using them as weapons.
His rhetoric echoes the leaders he most admires. Trump has long praised autocrats like Russia's Vladimir Putin and North Korea's Kim Jong-un. John Kelly, Trump's former Homeland Security Secretary and White House Chief of Staff, put it bluntly last year, he certainly prefers the dictator approach to government. Asked whether Trump's leadership style fits the definition of fascism, Kelly pointed to its core features: militarism, authoritarianism, suppression of opposition, and rule by a single strongman, and concluded those are the kinds of things that he thinks would work better in terms of running America.
EVE Online is a vast universe, alive with the...
And I was just sent a picture from somebody that wants to be there very badly. He's been very respectful of me and of our country, but not so respectful of others. But he'll, I'm going to sign this for him, but I was sent one, and I thought you'd all like to see it. That's a man named Vladimir Putin, who I believe will be coming, depending on what happens. He may be coming, and he may not, depending on what happens. We have a lot of things happening over the next couple of weeks. But I thought it was a nice picture of him. Okay of me, but nice of him. So that was very nice that it was sent to me, okay?
Trump has now ordered the military into Washington, D.C., despite declining crime rates in the capital. He has threatened to deploy the National Guard into other cities like Los Angeles and Chicago against the will of their governors. Asked whether he would send troops into Chicago without the state's consent, Trump answered simply, "I am." When pressed on whether the Pentagon is prepared to carry out such orders, he replied, "We're ready to go anywhere." The irony is that Trump denies the charge of dictatorship while simultaneously leaning into it. He dismisses critics who call him authoritarian by saying he is merely solving problems that Democrats refuse to acknowledge. "I'm not a dictator," he repeats, even as he paints himself as the only one capable of restoring order. But the danger is not in his words, it's in the normalization of the logic behind them. When Trump says that Americans might prefer a dictator if it means less crime, he's not just defending his own actions, he's actually laying the groundwork for a fundamental shift in the country's political culture. What was once unthinkable, a president openly entertaining dictatorship, is becoming part of the national conversation, precisely because Trump keeps taking it there. Trump's denials no longer reassure. They expose. His insistence that he is not a dictator is contradicted by his behavior, his executive actions, his willingness to sideline other branches of government, and his readiness to use the military as a domestic police force. The more he denies it, the more undeniable it becomes. Trump is not just flirting with authoritarianism, he is exercising it and enjoying it. And as history has shown, when a leader insists he is not a dictator, it's often because he already is one. I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with Midas Touch.